Sorry. Phones, students. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Digital Nomads, the end-of-year exhibition for the WITS Digital Arts. We're really excited to have you all here, and we're really excited to get going. So let me introduce your hosting team for the evening. I'm Kieran Reid. I'm the head of the department, and this is...
Hi everyone, I'm Fefe, 19. I happen to love digital games, that's why I'm here. I'm repping the OG Gen Zs, I'm sorry, first years, and yeah.
Thank you, and?
I'm Gamo, 22. I'm awkward as hell, I'm a feminist, and I like exploring the things that I can't verbalize, doing that through art. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm Jess, I'm 22, I'm a third year, I almost said fourth year, oh my gosh.
You're basically a fourth year. I can check your results quickly if you'd like. No, I'm joking.
I specialize in animation and writing and interactivity. I'm also a bookstagrammer, so.
Awesome. And?
Hello everybody, my name is Eric Prince. I'm one of the master's students in digital arts. I'm a permanent member of Team Accidental PhD, and I may or may not be here against my will.
He is definitely here against his will. He owes us many hours as part of his bursary. So thank you all for joining us for this evening. Basically, we wanted to show you all our games. We wanted to show you the animations. We wanted to show you the stories. We wanted to show you the interesting things that our students have done this year. In a very challenging year, they've really risen up to the kind of challenge that was presented to them and have created exceptional work. So this evening, we're going to look at some of that work, and we're going to go into a bit of detail about it. We also want to discuss the program and what it's been like and how we have dealt with COVID or not dealt with COVID, or, you know, we're all here, we're all sane, somewhat. We've had discussions about how our sleeping doesn't exist at the moment, or it does exist, or it's too much. It's been a really interesting year, and yet we've still produced great work. So I think that's really excellent. Basically what will happen is we'll show you some videos from each of the main courses that will be on display on our exhibition. You can find everything after the show on YouTube and on our itch page. The links are up. You have access to all of them, so you can check them out later. You can spend your time playing the games. Some of the clips we'll only be able to show you a little bit, and then you can watch some more. And then a little bit later, we have a panel with a series of academics from around the world to discuss what teaching was like this year, and a really kind of interesting discussion will be up there. We decided not to have all the staff here because, first of all, I'm the most charming of the staff. But really, this is an exhibition about the students and for the students. So that's why we've decided to have a representative from each year. You'll notice that we have first year, fourth year, third year, and masters. Unfortunately, and this is indicative of our times, our second year rep couldn't make it because she is in quarantine. She believes that she might have contracted COVID. So it's a very sad time in that regard. But the rest of us are here, and we're excited to get going. Okay, so that's the program. That's what we're doing. What we thought we'd start with is just a little bit of a conversation about WITS Digital Arts, and in particular, perhaps why you guys have chosen to study this degree, or, you know, a little bit about it. So we know we've heard some things here. We've heard the love of digital games. We've heard about Bookstagram, which you'll have to go into a little bit of detail there. We've heard about a kind of feminist approach and trying to articulate things that are almost not articulable except in your artwork, which is an interesting thing. And then we have someone who's here against his will, which there's nothing more we can say on that. But Eric, would you like to tell us about, because you've been here the longest, about why you wanted to study digital arts and what your experience has been over the years, and in particular because you're the only one here who's from the engineering faculty originally.
No, sure, Kieran, sure. Look, back in high school, I struggled figuring out what I wanted to do. I'm a very technical person. I'm good with calculations, good with drawing, good with my hands. But I also like having a creative outlet, which is why I enjoy subjects like IT and so forth. And when this opportunity arrived on my doorstep to do something that requires, you know, coding and extensive planning and design work, but at the same time, writing and expression and art, it just really spoke to me. It was a really good opportunity for me. I thoroughly enjoyed my time here, as much as I complain about second year and other times that have been challenging. But I love our department. I I love the stuff that we do, and I love that we're just really one big happy family. It's been a wonderful 5 years.
Cool. And how, I mean, the combination of the engineering and the games, has that been like an interesting thing for you? Are you glad you went that route? Because I know you've shifted over now and you're doing your honors and your masters in the School of Arts as opposed to that side. But like, so what did it give you, that other side of things?
It's been difficult. I've been a person who's very good at being the best in a very particular field, and when I made the decision to come to this side, I went, I don't want to focus on one field anymore. I want to be a jack of all trades. And that was a difficult lifestyle decision to change. Last year was challenging, but I do feel that it's given me a bit more insight in, especially in the design frame of things, how I should be thinking about how I'm constructing the technical side of things to work well with the art, how I'm working with the artists to direct the programming. All around, I feel a bit more, I don't know, stable as a all-round game designer, rather just somebody who can program really, really well, and rather just than somebody who could just draw very, very well. I feel like I have a bit of insight in everything. I have my thumb in all the pies, and I don't know, it makes me useful.
Yeah.
I hope to think that.
Well, I was going to say, we, as you said, we're a family, and we like to all help each other out. And over the years, Eric has been at every exhibition, at every Comic-Con, at every event, helping us carry stuff. He's got his magic screwdriver to lift up banners and do all of that kind of stuff. So, Eric, thank you for being part of the department for so long. You've been really, really great. So, thank you.
Thank you, Kieran.
Jess, I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
You mentioned a bookstagram.
Oh.
So first of all, can you explain what that is? But also, I mean, why did you study digital arts? It's really interesting that books seem to be your passion because you have a bookstagram, but you are studying digital.
Okay, so this is a bit complicated, but I hope that I can explain it really well. So Bookstagram is just a niche community on Instagram. So like you have lifestyle lifestyle Instagrams and like people who journal all the time. This is a specific community for people who love to read and who just need a group of people to talk about stuff like the art in books or the authorship and all those things. So it's really cute, it's really cool, I love it. So that's basically what a bookstagram is. You take pictures of books, you post them, and you talk about all the stuff that happened in that book.
That's really awesome.
And then the reason I went into game design, one, I was rebelling against my mom. I'm joking. I'm joking. But she did want me to become a miner, and I was like, no, thank you. So I always wanted to become an animator. But VIT doesn't actually do that, doesn't give you the degree to just do animation. And therefore, game design was my way into animation, right? But then, at first, it was just, okay, I want to do animation because it's cool, and I really like cartoons. But then I realized it can be a lot deeper. So coming from my perspective, being a person of color who's female, and coming from the background that I have, I realized that I'm always complaining about why there's no role model for me. There's no person who looks like me making animations. And then I was like, because I'm supposed to be that person. So that's what I'm going to do. Like all my assignments geared towards lesbian content, well, queer content, inclusive content, and like specifically people who look like me. So that's why I'm enjoying it a lot more now that I found a focus for it. So that's what I'm doing. My comic books, my animations, everything I write about is more inclusive. It's more like stuff that I wish I was able to read when I was smaller. And that's why I'm doing game design.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, I must say that knowing you for 3 years, I have no doubt that one day you will be that role model for many, many people.
Yeah.
And everyone else in the staff and student body agrees with me, I'm pretty sure. So congratulations. But you see, I mean, I think there's something really interesting, and you're still in first year, and often it is that you come in with like, games are cool, animation's cool, but actually it is a profound medium. All of them have these ways of telling and engaging with profound stories, which is a great segue into what you were saying, I think. And maybe you can tell us a bit about why you studied digital arts and that thing around articulating what's so difficult to articulate.
Well, firstly, I just want to echo what Eric was saying about the space feeling like a very stable space. in terms.
Sorry, they're just telling us the time.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, just about this being feeling quite stable. Like, for me, I went through all of high school trying to kind of cultivate my own space creatively, and my way of doing that was through a blog. But I got to a point where obviously I needed to study something professional or just something that my parents would agree with a bit more, and digital arts was that. And similar to Jess, I think I found myself in a space where I wasn't really seeing things that I understood or could fully relate to or that excited me. And I said, yo, let me just take this into my own hands and make something that I feel represents other people like me. And, you know, like I always say, like, I make art for the inner me that wishes things like that things like that existed, but I'm struggling to find. So I really like how diverse this degree is, and I've always said the thing with games that excites me is how many ways there are to communicate things. And especially with Twine as well, that's something I learned this year. Like, there's so many ways to communicate things in such a simple, like, way. You know, it's just, yeah, no, this degree, it's exciting. There's so much that it exposes you to. So
well, I mean, Kamal, I have to say, from you know, we've had conversations. We always talk about our students in staff meetings. And we have, you know, we've had conversations where, as I'm really glad to say that the degree excites you because, you know, same as I was saying there, Jess, is that you're one of the students that excites us. And to see the way that you've grown this year, to really tackle issues, to tackle topics, to tackle things that are, you know, challenging and interesting and different, it's been really inspirational. You'll see some of Kamal's work quite shortly, a little clip of her game, which you can get on Itch and Play as well. You really should. It's quite disturbing, but really, really, really interesting. So Fefe, obviously you've had less experience in the degree, and unfortunately you've been, I mean, you were here for 6 weeks, right, before we locked down. So, I mean, maybe just you can tell us a bit about why you started to study digital arts, and obviously you haven't got digital yet, because our first year is analog, but just, you know, give us a little bit of that intro.
So I chose digital arts because I've been playing video games for the longest time. I think I was about 7 years old. And they've always interested me, and I've also been an athlete, so my mom said, you know, study sports science. I'm like, that's boring. I want to do games for a living. And, you know, in my first year, of course I'm into digital games, but I've always tried to put something digital into an analog. So like with my games, I always think, oh, hey, that's a really cool concept. Let me try and make it into a board game. So yeah, that was something that I really like doing, and that's why I'm here.
Yeah. You and I should have a conversation, because I know that we're in the digital department, but sports for me is one of the purest forms of play. It's one of the best games ever. It's just, and the narratives, right? I mean, I'm a cricket man, but like if you watch a cricket game, the narrative that unfolds. Anyway, that's something that we can discuss as you progress further. I have to say that this year, so Fefe came as a recommendation to be a host, mostly from our tutors who have been exceptional, because I couldn't engage with the students as much as I would have liked to this year because we weren't in the classroom. But just my short time with you has been really exceptional, and we look forward to seeing where you go and hopefully some inspiration here from your senior students. But really, it's really great to have you here on the panel.
Thank you.
So that's our general introduction. My man over there, Raymond, who is our tech person for the day. Sorry, he's scolding me. He says his name is Ray, but as you can see, he's put Kiki under my name there, which is deeply offensive. But so now what we're going to do now is we're going to show you some of the games. So we're showing you a trailer for a game called Wukong. And then we're going to show you a trailer from Kamal's game, which is really, really exciting. But before that, we've got a video from Enrique Loerder, who is one of our staff members, and she's been teaching into the Advanced Game Design, or Game Design 4, which Eric says is his favorite course he ever did here. So Ray, when you're ready, you can take it away.
Hi, I'm Henrike, or Riker. I'm a lecturer for game design, and earlier this year I gave my fourth year students a particular challenge: to create a twine game that focuses on evoking strong emotions in the player and to go beyond what most people associate with text adventures by using sugar cube code, CSS, GIFs, and JavaScript. I encouraged my students to tell very personal stories and have frankly been blown away by the games that they have created. The best examples are being exhibited as part of our online exhibition on itch.io, which you should absolutely check out. To give you a taste, I picked 3 of them and interviewed the students who made them. Please be aware that these games deal with very personal and sensitive topics: mental illness, obsessive-compulsive disorder, substance abuse, and rape. If you're not comfortable with any of these topics, you may want to sit this one out.
My name is Marco Chu. I am a 4th-year game design student at the University of Witwatersrand. And today I'll be showing you the game I've designed earlier this year called Dear Diary, which is a mystery puzzle game that has elements of horror in it. You know that one saying Einstein has where it's like, if you do the same thing over and over again, you basically are insane? I wanted to touch on that idea where it's the player does these things over and over again, that they themselves start feeling this insanity. Their mind starts slowly deteriorating due to isolation, due to depression, due to this self-deprecation. The once pearl white door stands in front of you menacingly. It has been months since she last visited to this apartment, even longer since you had a conversation with her, without the door slamming, plates flying across the room, and so on. Your notepad. This is almost like a log of what you've done. You are now able to access the diary. The diary is almost this guide. I stare out my window a lot. We just wanted the player to be like, oh, where's the window now? I want the viewer to just slowly look at these notes, look at the diary, and get spooked. There's bits and pieces of different people I know, including myself, and I have talked to some friends, some close relatives that have experienced similar situations. Their stories have definitely inspired bits and pieces of this character that I've developed. I feel very uncomfortable about putting this publicly because the only people that I've shared this with were people that I thought could be trusted, and now releasing this, now it's less controlled. As you said, this is almost like a piece of me. This is attached to me. With other games, I can detach myself and look at it objectively, whilst this, when someone critiques this game, it almost feels like they're critiquing me.
My name is Gamu. I'm a digital art student. This Twine in Ecstasy's name is about, I guess, substance abuse and using it as a coping mechanism when dealing with ending a romantic relationship with an abuser. It is based on a personal experience, and I have experienced this conversation with myself. Sometimes when you do go through these things, like with yourself, you do have a part of you that is a bit harsh because you do kind of want to just get through it. But then you're also still a baby deep down. So confronting the alcohol or just the substances in general, also wanted to bring that in really early as well. The parts of like, oh, alcohol helps you, you know, to kind of allude to the fact that this isn't anything new. The shaking text, I also did that to try to show like the anxiety. I started bringing in like the, I guess, attachment that a lot of people do experience when it comes to abusers. Kind of a complicated thing to navigate because you kind of feel like you shouldn't feel attached, but at the same time, you kind of are forcing the person to say certain things. Yeah, I was trying to show like the internal back and forths with the, I hate him, you love him, he wronged you, but you love him. The let's text him, I wanted it to kind of be like you bombarded with that. Admit that you have it or pretend you don't. That's also like, I guess, a cover up of whether you're going to be honest and say, yeah, I've kept it all this time despite what happened, or just try play it off and like you low key still kind of wanted to fix things and like hope things got better. So you kept it. Making it was difficult, but cathartic in a way. I wasn't entirely sure if it's something I should do just because of how heavy the subject matter is. And like I said, I mean, it was a school assignment, so
I also didn't know what the response would be. I honestly thought that it was really bad. Like, I was expecting a fail. When you spoke to me about showing it at the exhibition, that was very scary. I mean, I was excited that you thought it was good enough for that. You also asked us to do a lot more than I had done in the past with Twine, which was nice for me to actually learn about how much Twine can do. So I'm working on another Twine by myself. Like, I have ideas of so many Twines I want to do now. Twine is just great. I really love Twine now. I think making this is what made me fall in love with it. I am just thankful for how much this degree has taught me. And yeah, I think that's my favorite thing about making games. There's just so many ways to express yourself.
I am Joshua Jansen Van Vieren. My game is called A Moment of a Self-Portrait, and it's basically an OCD simulator. It simulates what it's like to have compulsions and have OCD behaviors carrying on constantly in the back of your head as you go through your day-to-day life. Obviously, lots of swearing, trigger warning. Wake the fuck up, samurai, we have a mind to save. A big misconception with OCD is that people think, oh, you just neat. That's not really it. It's the idea of you to have compulsions, like these ritualistic behaviors that you need to almost satisfy in order to feel better. You have a project and it's due tomorrow and you haven't started, and you get this terrible feeling in your stomach. I feel like that, but like with stupid things, like maybe you need to touch the end of a glass, or you need to do a certain movement with your lips, or you need to touch your cheek. And if you don't do that, you just get this terrible feeling in your gut that you can't escape. No sugar, black, the best way, yes. 1 sugar, 1 spoon of coffee, cold water in a drinking glass. Really don't care today. Yeah, let's go. Complete chaos. Perfect coffees are stirred 6 times. Nothing more, nothing less. And Easter egg, of course. You have stirred your coffee too much, rendered undrinkable. When I was brushing my teeth, when I was in my teen years, I'd count. I need to brush this 3 times, brush that 3 times. I don't do it anymore. Brushing. Teeth are clean, but you can still click on brushing. Like if I carry on, your teeth are now super clean, but there's blood in the toothpaste froth. So our idea is that if you give in to your obsessions too much, sometimes you can end up causing yourself bodily harm. At the moment, I'd say I'm very proud of it. Like I said, the more personal it is, the better. So I was like, let me just choose the most personal thing by like saying, yo, this is who I am. If you want to see like the more intimate side of myself, here's a game. You can experience it. In a way, this was therapeutic, and it's nice to have people relate to me for once. Probably the worst time of OCD in my life was when I was little, because I didn't really have the emotional maturity to be able to rationalize these things. If I had this game when I was 10 years old, it would have been a massive help to me. Since I've never met someone else who has OCD themselves, having the ideas of them being able to relate to me in some way, it made me feel like almost like I'm at home. Accept yourself, no matter how shitty you might think you are. Know that there is a certain charm to your shittiness. This was a moment of my self-portrait. You couldn't do this with a painting. That's why I like games.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and got a little inspired to make emotional and personal games yourself. If you want to play any of the games you just saw, please go to the following link on itch.io and check out all the other games and creations that have been made by the wonderful digital art students this year.
This game features flashing images and effects which may be harmful to people with photosensitive epilepsy. Chaos Live is filmed in front of a live studio audience. Don't mind me, I just add a little commentary as you play. You know, the same way that your mind does. Except this time, it's loud and public and everyone can hear me. So ignore me if you can. Sometimes maneuvering through the world is a bitch. I think it was Robert Half who said that the ego trip is a journey to nowhere. So you're not really going anywhere here, but what you do still really matters. Are you sure you'd like to do that? You can exit the game, but the show still goes on for you outside of the screen. It's time for the credits. Take a look. This part is pretty boring, but someone, somewhere, who you might never meet really worked hard on this game, so appreciate it. Sweet naive little darling. You can't choose what you experience. You need to experience it all. This scene selection was just a funny little addition for me. You can't pick and choose. Life doesn't work that way. You can only go through it all. The first time Mercy's eye showed its face, it ruined her. A reckless little subconscious creature that throws caution to the wind and acts on impulse. I think Sigmund Freud might have spoken about this. It's a monster and a miracle. The monster is the problem. Mercy, mercy, mercy. What the hell are you doing? The superego. Don't do shit, you'll fuck it up and nothing will work. But Mercy tries. She tries to see things for what they are, but she can't. It's all too much sometimes. But this is the part where she, tries. Smart move. Born in 1998, Mercy is a fragile little being with a fragile little ego. Sometimes it skews her perception of life, as you can see here. But don't let it get to you too much. Wait, did I say you? I meant her. Don't let it get to her. You're playing a character, right? This is all just fun and fiction, right? Is this the end? Well, it is for the game. But like we've established, it's not really the end for you. We're always watching. It's always a show. What's your name? I'll try say hey next time I see you. Or you can just tune in next week for another episode of Chaos.
Students, here it fits.
to her first or
You
first?
first. Yeah. And we're back. Excuse us for a moment, ladies and gentlemen. We're just having them clear out the live studio audience. We don't want them here for the rest of the show because of COVID regulations. While we're waiting for them to leave, we've got a big shout out filled with love for DBC Osman. Now, I know you and I have never met personally, but the department has a lot of appreciation for you coming and watching us tonight. We're really happy to see you here. Damn it, Thomas, get out of here. Okay, I think we got them all out. So, can we talk about that trailer? That was really interesting.
Thank you.
Oh, I'd really like to know a little bit about the core themes of this game because, you know, it felt a little funny, but
Yeah.
also there was this unsettling undertone that I just couldn't get rid of.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a bit about that, come on?
So I tried to kind of go with the dark comedy style, which was a lot of fun because there's a lot of like polarizing elements that can be included in that. That's really interesting, and it was fun to make. So I think with that, I was mostly trying to explore human behavior and just like perception, because as like an introvert, I'm always thinking and always watching people and always thinking about what other people are thinking about. So
Sure.
yeah, that's kind of what I tried to do with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look, I like a very specific word that you've used here. You've used the word explore.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of our department comes back to that word. Our department is integrally about exploring and playing. I mean,
Yeah.
we're game design, right?
Literally, that's yeah.
So I actually wanted to open a little bit of a discussion on that. See, you and I in first year, we got
Yeah.
taught how to make board games and how to play board games. But Fefe had maybe 6 weeks in the department and she was shipped off to home because of COVID-19. What
Lockdown.
was it like learning to play and make board games when you couldn't see other people?
I'm not speaking just for myself, I'm speaking for the first years as well. It was really, really hard. Like, I feel like most of us were just winging it because
Yeah.
it was working alone on a game it's a lot because you have to mechanics, you know, it's not split into different things. So we kind of had to explain to each other that, okay, this is how you build my game and this is how you play my game. If you're struggling to find people to play with, this is how you play the game alone. So that is the kind of things we had to go through this year making board games. It was bad.
Yeah, no, I actually can't imagine.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a situation where you need to play board games with other people present.
And just a comment on that, like I think us, the first time we really made games alone was second year. So now being thrown into a degree where you're making games by yourself at the very beginning, yo, that's crazy. I can't.
But-
It's intense.
Do you think that that's going to help Fefe's class?
Definitely. I think that gives you a lot of independence at a very early stage in this degree, which is really important. You know, what do you think? Do you not think that that's something?
No, I
that should be-
also think it helps because you've been playing with digital media now, digital communications.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you haven't been in Unity doing the code out there, but you've been using your computers and you've been exposed to working in this digital field, which look, let's be honest, it's crap given the
Yeah.
circumstances, but it's nice in its own way.
Yeah.
Now, Fefe, I wanted to talk about you. You say that you enjoy sports, and I'm not a sporting man myself. I play pool and darts. It would get me through bars if I went to bars, but you play sports, and I agree with Kieran in the fact that sports are the first place where we really start seeing play in communities. It's such a big part of so many people's lives. Maybe you could shed some light as to what that's done for you and your feelings on it.
Sports is really great. I've learned how to work in a team and kind of build on another teammate's weakness. So if, let's say, I play basketball, so if my defense is weak, I make sure that, my teammate kind of makes up for my weak defense. And it's like a thinking game, Not a lot of people don't think of it as like, oh, you're just running around. No, it's not the case. You're like thinking, okay, how can we kind of block the other team from getting into the key and stuff like that. So I think games do the same thing as well with play and
Yeah. Cool. That's what I find really interesting about that, right? Is we're talking about a topic like play that so many people brush off as this game-like thing, and yet a lot of thought and processing and design work goes into play. And I mean, I could talk on and on into how we use play to explore important topics like feminism and sexism and racism in community here in our course.
Yeah.
But we just don't have time for that right now. Unfortunately, there's some other very important people that we'd love to introduce you to. Specifically, an old student of ours named Lucky is going to join us tonight to share some words about the course. And then after that, we're going to move on to Ray's talk about animation within the digital art sphere. So I hope you all enjoy, and thank you very much.
Students here at Wits, back in the year when everything started. And when I look back at my career, and one of the biggest contributing factors to put me to where I am today was my experience in working with people from all sorts of backgrounds. Now, normally when we talk about backgrounds, we talk about social political backgrounds. But here it was the experience of working with multidisciplinary people across different faculties. And at the time when I started this was seen as a very weird thing, as a very weird concoction of people to bring together. And I think being able to see the world and being able to see problems and find solutions in these different perspectives from an engineering and an arts perspective has really given me the edge. And I think the biggest value in that is being able to work cross-disciplinary with multidisciplinary people. And I've taken that lesson, I've taken the values that I've learned there all the way through my career. I'm very fortunate enough that this year I got to lecture as well. And a lot of times when you experience or when something is piloted and tested, as the game design degree was with us, a lot of times it often dwindles down after a while. And I was absolutely blown away at the caliber of people that this degree and this department in general keeps producing. I was absolutely blown away by the students that I lectured this year. When I started teaching them, some of them had never programmed before in their lives, just as I had never programmed when I started doing game design. And it's incredible to see how all of them have improved and progressed through the year. So I think definitely this department is doing something right. And I really hope that we can continue to better it, we can continue to improve it, so that we can keep producing the caliber of graduates that we seem to be doing year in and year out. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Ray Witcher and I'm the fourth year animation lecturer. Today I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about a really awesome project that the students worked on for their fourth year final animation project. They were given the brief to actually create a series of short animated features that would be screened on the various channels that Viacom owns. Viacom being the parent company of brands such as MTV and Nickelodeon and a whole bunch of other really great pioneering channels. So they approached us and they said, listen, we would like you to choose a public holiday in South Africa and then create a series of animations that celebrate exactly what you think that holiday means. And so through my discussions with the team from Viacom, we came to the conclusion that we were going to use Heritage Day as our kind of final output. Heritage Day being a very important holiday to me personally, and I think to a lot of other fellow South Africans, just because it's the one day that we really get to celebrate ourselves as well as everyone else's cultures and the various kind of things that we've been through and the things that we need to learn still about each other. And so I thought, especially having such a great, diverse, and amazing group of students that I do, that this would be the perfect opportunity for them to really explore what it means to be South African, or for even for those that aren't South African, what South Africa means to them as well. And so we actually came up with some really interesting ideas. You'll see in the next couple of minutes that we'll be talking to the actual winners of the competition, which I think is a really, really great thing. So as we ended up with a team of 2 animators that won one of the categories, and then a solo animator that won a second one. And the great thing about this brief was it also, because it's 4th year level, they encouraged experimentation. So the students weren't kind of stuck with doing one medium. They could do anything they wanted, from stop frame to traditional 2D animation to 3D. So really it was up to them. So they needed to decide what would suit them best, how it would be the most efficient way to do things. And interestingly, quite a lot of the students actually chose the 2D medium. Now, for those of you that don't know, 2D animation is hard. It takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of pre-production, and it's really just, it's quite a task to actually produce even 30 seconds, which was the brief. And you'll see that I particularly am very proud of how these students approached the brief and how they actually understood it. So one went for a really beautiful exploration of a kind of a more personal exploration of especially the spaces of Joburg, and the other a much more humorous route. So I think without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Annalisa, Wednesday, and Gareth. They'll be talking you through things, and then I will see you a little bit later.
Hi, my name is Annalisa Nkanyuza, and I am an animator, illustrator, game design student at WITS. I like making fantasy portraits, digitally, of course. But yeah, that's my thing. I also like making visualizers for songs I listen to, so that's dope too. But yeah, that's me. So the concept for the animation was we were given the brief Heritage Day, and that was quite challenging for me because, like, how do you capture what is South Africa's heritage? What is it to be South African? How do you capture that in 30 seconds? So we decided to make our own ideal fantasy version of South Africa, where everyone's just vibing, you know, the landscape is just thriving, the animals are just jumping with people on skateboards. So yeah, everyone's just chilled together, and that's our ideal South Africa, everyone's just being chilled. So COVID affected the way I work in that it was kind of hard to find the motivation to work on creative projects when you're removed from that, you know, environment, that creative environment with other people who you can, you know, bounce ideas off, you know, get feedback. And like, for me, being my biggest and harshest critic, it was hard reviewing my own work because I was just like, you know, giving myself the worst of it. But, you know, at the end of it, and then like in the bigger scheme, I feel like we got off relatively lucky because even though we were in lockdown, we were still able to complete work, assignments, submit, because we work electronically, mostly in digital arts. So honestly, I feel like that is quite a bonus, I guess, if anything. Yeah.
My name is Gareth Chadwick, and I am a 3D artist based in Johannesburg, finishing my honors in digital arts. The way I came up with the concept of my project was that I wanted it to be something that all South Africans can relate to, and what's more relatable for a South African than having your own power cut out? So I decided to have my animation set in a South African space station that is infiltrated by an adventurer attempting to steal a source of power. But things go wrong, and it is revealed that Eskom is the one powering the station. So I thought it would be funny that even in the future where we are now in space, Eskom is still causing load sheddings. Before COVID arrived, we only had 6 weeks of lectures at the WITS campus, and I was only in the pre-production phase, still figuring out the concept. So it did have a negative impact on my work as it made it difficult to consult with my lecturer on the production, but I was still able to push through with the resources I had to animate my project. Being a digital artist feels like having a key to 1,000 doors because there are so many different ways of creating your own art. I've barely scratched the surface as a 3D artist, as it feels like there is a never-ending journey to learn something new in the world of animation.
Right, so wasn't that amazing? So I would like to also invite you all to please follow the link below and have a look at the rest of our exhibition. We've hosted every single video part that was actually created for the piece. I think in total, if memory serves, there's about 12 projects in total that were actually created for the brief, and you'll be suitably impressed by every single one of them. So just to give you a little bit of insight, the fourth year project is really, because it's the final year of animation studies, we encourage a lot of experimentation. It's a lot more industry relevant, so we tend to actually give real kind of pitch style briefing. They need to actually come up with pre-production Bibles. They need to do all the storyboarding, essentially follow what's called the animation pipeline. So it's not just about actually making a piece, it's about what comes before the piece. So it introduces some really beautiful values of criticality, of understanding how different things work, and actually just really pushing the medium of animation. So this was the first of many years to come of this subject. It's actually very brand new. This was the first group of students that's ever worked with it. And I'm hoping to see just better and better results. And again, follow our link to the YouTube channel and have a look at just all the other truly amazing pieces of work that were generated for this competition. Thank you again, and see you around the exhibition.
Aya! Aya! Aya!
What's happening? What's wrong?
Okay, good, you're awake.
Pobe, I swear.
I need to show you guys something. Quickly. Dude, I need to show you guys something.
Pobe, it is 4 a.m. If you're waking me up to tell me about your weird-ass chicken dreams, I'm gonna lose my shit. It better not be the anaconda one.
Yeah, let's not talk about the anaconda one, please. And then? Why the hell are you guys so loud?
Yeah, well, you know what else is loud?
So, I'm gonna go back to the room. Wait, look! I did it! Why are you showing me your browser? Also, who bookmarks Pornhub? Wait, what? Oh shit, hang on. I've been shortlisted to perform at the Bassett Lounge tonight!
Dude, you're still doing competitions?
This better not end up like the last time. Dude, where's your laptop? Where's your laptop? I need you to clear your cache, clear your history, delete your browser, delete everything with the microwave. Where's your laptop?
Microwave?
Dude, we don't have time.
Whoa! Pobe, what the
First of all, guys, I didn't buy any votes. Secondly, I'm not legally supposed to talk about this. Hey, bro. Maybe you guys are right. Maybe I should just stop chasing this silly dream. Maybe get a real job, like welding, you know? Maybe then I'll have real bars. Wow. I said participants and performers only. Now go from here. Hey! I don't know if it's the inbreeding in your family, but you don't ever touch my nose. Don't think I won't call the SPCA on you. Oh, okay, because I'm a mixed breed, huh? I don't care what you are, Matt, but I... Well, that's definitely a lawsuit. Huh? Penis enlargement? Okay. Wait. Guys, look! Penis enlargement?
Thanks, but I think I'm good.
No! Penis enlargements and music equipment rental. Well, this is the place. Yeah, the place where you'll probably find a body.
What, you're just gonna knock? Like that's how things are done around here?
Guess he's gonna knock.
What is it you seek?
Oh, hi. We found this pamphlet thing, and we're looking for Dr. Njenje.
Enter. I have been expecting you. It was only a matter of time before I... Excuse me. Sorry, it can get a little dusty in here. But how can I help you? Oh, lost lovers, perhaps? Hips and bums creams? Oh, I'm running a 2-for-1 special on penis enlargements.
What does that even mean? How does that work?
I like you guys already.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to our next performer, Phoebe.
It's actually Paul Bear, but I'm sure you guys already knew that. All right, let's get it started. That synthesizer plugin you used? Yep, it's cursed. With a demon that steals the souls of its victims and drives them to insanity. That key that you were playing? Yep, that's the evil key. How do you know all this? It was in the contract. You know, the one you signed without reading the fine print. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh my dog, dude, that was so beautiful.
Yeah, I didn't know you could sing like that.
Well, I mean, you never asked.
I don't know what kind of bull you pulled back there, but the crowd loved it. It's almost like they were possessed by a malicious entity from the great beyond.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, parents, so complicated, so impossible to understand sometimes, even when all they really want is for us to be good. But of course, parents, like children, don't always get what they want.
Mother, I do hate to be blunt, but no one cares if you've got the plague.
Oh, I don't care if you care. I'm your mother. So sit up, pay attention, and get your beak out of that book, you suicidal dickshot.
Quark takes a breath and spins slowly in his office chair. Or he would have, but he didn't have an office chair. Because he was a duck.
Oh, for the love of just stand up. You're going to get splintered.
Fine, tell me about your stupid plague.
What's to tell? I'm going to die, Quark.
Yes, we're all going to die, Mother. What's your point?
Ugh, my point is that you only die when the humans eat your worthless behind. I have a few days, a week at best.
So?
So, come on, Quark, what do you think I want?
Damn it, Duck Duck. Did you fall off in your sleep again?
Nuh-uh. I was just trying to eavesdrop.
Mic, check, 1, 2. I can hear you.
So, Jess, wasn't that amazing?
That was freaking amazing.
That was really, really, really great.
I'm inspired, honestly.
Yeah, I know. And clearly from the comments, we want to see more of the animations that we are seeing. We want to see full series. We want to see everything. So thank you so much. So Jess, you're here to chat a little bit about animation because you're taking it, and maybe even about what you just saw.
Well, what I just saw really inspired me, and I actually feel really bad that I didn't meet any of the people who made those. So I'm just like, okay, at least fourth year, there's something to look forward to.
Yeah, there's a lot to look forward to. So, like, you obviously loved watching that, but what is it about animation that you love, and why is it your kind of passion?
I want to say Avatar, but that doesn't sound like the right answer.
Why not?
Okay, the reason that I actually want to go into animation is because for most of my life, what I've seen is not what is real in my life. So that's what I want to do with animation. I want to put some of what I know to be true in a South African context and put it on TV or put it on YouTube or just put it out there. And that's kind of why I like animation. The thing about animation is that you could do anything, virtually anything. As long as you can throw it, visualize it, have a concept for it, you can make it. And that's kind of what I love about animation. Also, it confused me for a very long time when I was young. I was like, how do they make drawings move?
I know, right? I also used to think like that. Like, how does this work? Why is this working? It's like magic. Yeah.
It literally is like magic.
Yeah. So that's really beautiful. And what did you like about the things that you did just see?
The animation of the dogs, I love how that is exactly what I was speaking about, a South African context. The little pamphlet is specifically something you would see in the streets.
Right outside Wits, there's a guy who keeps the pamphlets out there.
Exactly. And like the small little innuendos and the jokes, obviously people who are in the know would know. And that's what I found really fun about that one. And then I think the other animation that was standing out to me now is the one where the girl is like in her room, her little incubator room, and it's so cute and isolated, and it's like one of those, I picture lo-fi music playing over that, basically.
Yeah, exactly, right. Yeah, it's really beautiful how you can transition with animation. You know, you've got these dogs in Barkberg, which I assume is something like a Boxburg, just because of the way they were behaving and stuff. And then transition to this kind of beautiful room and all of those kinds of things, and it's really, really fascinating in the way you can do that, and the way you can just challenge yourself and do that. So well done to all our students, and hopefully we'll see Barkberg, the kind of full series
on Netflix.
On Netflix, yes, on Netflix. So for all of you who really enjoyed it out there. For those of you who were enjoying the tale of Duck Duck and Quark, I can never say the name right, and Leia's going to be upset with me because I always mispronounce the name. She's the student who did it. We will be showing that later. It is a little age-rated, but we'll get there. It's not a trigger warning, Hunley, but it is a swear word. It is some swear words, and it is a little bit stuff. But for now, we're starting an initiative next year because, you know, we've actually been doing this program since 2012. which means we have a whole number of alumni. So in speaking with one of our colleagues, our sessional colleague and great teacher for Game Design 3, we're looking at starting a whole alumni program about how you can get into the industry and do professional practice. So we're going to go to him now and the conversation. This is our most technical transition, because now we're going from the live studio to the Zoom studio, which is the same thing as the live studio, but it's a little bit different. So there might be some mess ups, especially because Ray's on his phone right now. But I'm going to go to the Zoom meeting right now, where I am muted. And Ray will tell us when we're ready.
That's right.
Now we see Ray.
Hi, Vuk, welcome.
Hi, can you guys hear me? Yeah, I'm doing well, thanks. How are you guys?
Not too bad, Vuk, not too bad. So what do you want to tell us about? Tell us your project.
Cool. Yeah, well, first of all, I'd just like to start off by saying what unbelievable projects I've just witnessed. I mean, year on year, the course has been getting better in every single regard. I mean, from the animations to those interactive writing pieces coming out of Riker's course, just to the panel as a whole. I mean, the professionalism from when I started, you know, it's chalk and cheese. I couldn't even imagine that this would be the course in 8 years. It's absolutely insane. So I just want to say a big well done to everyone who's participated this year, everyone who's just really put in the hard yards. It's been a tough year, but you guys really pulled through. And I think the products all speak for themselves. They honestly do. So just to kick things off, as most people, so for those who don't know me, I don't know how you wouldn't, but if you don't know me, I'm the guy who's been around the basic digital arts building for the past 8 years in some capacity, way, shape, or form. I started out as one of the first batch of game design students. So we were kind of the first group of alumni coming out of game design. And I think I took one of the harder routes in my professional career, unlike others who kind of went straight into industry. I dabbled a lot in kind of the freelancing space, starting up a number of creative businesses, and many of which have failed. But I'm back on that horse, and you know they've all succeeded in just, I guess, varying degrees, but they've all generated capital and they've all basically enabled me to survive. So really what I've wanted to do, and I've been trying to incorporate this into some of my courses for a number of years now, but it's basically to bring in a degree of professional practice that basically equips and enables our students to really go out in the world and make a living by being creative. You know, a lot of people, a lot of creatives will know this firsthand, but you know, we primarily work on quite an abstract way where it's very interpretive, and a big part of what I want to do is change that into being very product orientated, teaching people specific processes and practices that enable them to not only manage projects better, but basically complete them in time, actually getting paid on time, being able to understand how to charge, what products that they actually need to offer, how to communicate effectively, and actually just how to turn yourself into a business without necessarily having to be formally employed. So it's really just trying to equip our students, equip our alumni, just to tackle the world as creatives.
Vuk, can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Sorry, we had both the mics going for a little bit of time, so it was a little bit of a mess up. But yeah, I mean, Vuk, that sounds really, really interesting. And you see Jess nodding her head here the whole time. One of the reasons I brought Jess to chat with you is because she was actually talking about, like, you know, what do you do after this? How's she going to get into the industry? How's she going to figure out what that next step is, and you know, all of those kinds of things. So Jess, do you have any questions for Vuk or about his program?
Basically, I just want an introduction to the program, because after that, then I can have a few questions.
Okay, great. So essentially, just the program's going to run essentially as a secondary course available to primarily to the alumni and the postgraduate students, and then thereafter we'll basically be releasing it live for the rest of our student body to have access to. the way the kind of the course is going to work essentially is that we'll have a live panel session where you, the postgraduates and the alumni will be able to engage directly with me and some other guests I bring on. And then we'll actually have a course curriculum where we'll start to tackle specific, I don't want to say problems, but specific areas of focus. Everything from, what is it that you can actually offer? How do we take a portfolio and create value within a portfolio and actually moving it to a case study? How do we actually give you the tools to not only be employed, but also make money? Because a lot of what people don't understand is when entering the workforce as a creative, you're in quite a tough spot because often you don't have the body of work to kind of demonstrate your skill set, and you don't really have the muscle to debate a fair pay, a fair salary. So often you find yourselves in your first 2, 3, 4 years of working, I don't want to say it, but you almost slave labor. You get put into really tight positions, and I just really want to change that. I've seen that happen to a lot of our students. I've seen it happen to a lot of my friends, and those are some of the things. So when we're speaking about the actual course itself and some of the topics we'll go through, as I mentioned, I really want to focus on a move from portfolio work to case studies. This basically demonstrates your critical thinking and your referential ability to think systemically, to basically show what it is that you did and why and how it impacted the business and the project, because really that's what people are after. They want to see, what does creative mean in terms of numbers? And that's a bit of a mind shift that we have to take you guys through. And that's why I want to run it simultaneously with kind of your critical courses that you guys are doing at WITS currently. So we kind of get the best of both worlds there. We'll take you through things like, how do you price a project? How do you estimate times? How do you project manage a project? What does professional communication actually look like? How do we manage that with basic tools that you have access to? So a basic Gmail account, Google Drive folders. How do you build a professional work environment for yourself if you don't have access to high-end gear, office space, colleagues, that sort of stuff, So we are going to release, I will release basically a granular breakdown of all the kind of the course we'll go through. And I hope that gives you some basis for some questioning.
Actually, I don't have any questions because you covered all the bases so well. But basically to comment, that's basically everything that I was speaking about. How do you move from graduating into the industry, because the only portfolio work you kind of have is what you've done as assignments and some freelance stuff if you were lucky to get freelance work on the side during your student career, right? So that's kind of what I was talking about. I also mentioned shifting into the industry. Does WITS have does the digital arts what's this thing called? Does the digital arts department kind of have a system that allows you to shift from maybe a company that comes with the digital arts system, like Timologong, for example? That was just some of the things I was speaking about. And I really like what you are saying to me, because I struggle. I struggle genuinely from thinking of what sort of creative path I want to take, because we can be a generalized situation. If you have game design, the chances of you getting into a company, a private company for that matter, is very slim if your portfolio isn't good. And then if you're taking it from the writing department or the animation department, if you don't know someone who knows someone who knows someone, you kind of stand on your own. And if you try and start something by yourself, the chances of you having the resources to carry yourself for the next 6 to 3 months is really difficult. So I'm interested in what you're selling.
Yeah, look, it seems you've got your first participant signed well and truly up for it. But so we're going to have to wrap up because we're heading over to our next video. But look, this is the kind of thing that as the staff we've been speaking about for so long. And actually, our curriculum is really tight. We're teaching technical skills, we're teaching critical skills, and it reaches the point where we have to let something maybe slide a little bit. And we have with professional practice. So it's so great that the alumni, and that you as a kind of one of the first alumni, Book was in our first year ever with Tim, They were in the first year ever of the course. It's really great that the alumni can take on that initiative. And I hope that for the alumni watching, and for Lucky who spoke earlier, and for, Eric, you'll be an alumni soon enough, that you all come back and participate in this program. And, because we can share so much with our students, but they need that other thing. They need that thing which is part of the university, but isn't part of the university. And it's that weird position.
Exactly.
Yeah. So thanks, Brooke. That sounds really cool. And we'll be seeing more of you.
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too. So Ray, we're going to stay on Zoom while we transition to the next video. Coming up now, you'll see more of Vuk, because we've got the third year game design video coming up. The reason generally our exhibition is for fourth year graduating students, but we include third year game design because it has some of the engineering students who might graduate at the end of their third year. Some of them will continue on into their honors, some of them will continue on into engineering, but a lot of them are graduating after this. So we include them in our show. So this is Tim and Vuk talking about their show, and then about their course, and then you'll see some of the games that have come out of that course. So
Hello all, I'm Tim. I'm Vuk. We are the course coordinators for Game Design 3.
Game Design 3 is split into two primary sections. The first focusing on rapid development and prototyping, which occurs during the first semester, and during the second semester, introducing them to group projects in the form of professional development and practice.
We are excited to present to you the results of the hard work from our students today across many different types of games and intentions. We hope you enjoy.
I'm Zayana Albertine. I am currently a third year student studying a BA Digital Art degree. I major in animation and game design. I am currently the artist for the Sazy Town project.
Hi, I'm Samantha. I'm a digital arts engineer in my final year and I'm the designer for Sazy Town.
Hi, I'm Amy. I'm also a digital arts engineer. I'm in my final year and I'm the programmer for Sazy Town.
Sazy Town is a super comforting, warm, loving game for everyone to play. It is specifically catered to the queer community, creating a safe, loving space for everyone that plays it.
We wanted it to be a really relaxing game, a really calming game, just like Stardew Valley, where you log on and you're just completely taken out of all the stresses of life and you can just grow your little crops and talk to your wife.
Well, the intention of the game was to initially avoid stereotypes at all costs, and so we took inspiration from a lot of our friends that are part of this community, and we also took a lot of inspiration from ourselves and what we would like to see in this world.
I'm Nadia. I'm third year in digital arts. I major in game design and writing, and I'm the writer of the project Love Me Less. Love Me Less is a visual novel and dating simulator that deals with toxic relationships and has themes of emotional manipulation. The story came from a bunch of different places, but mostly personal experience, talking to friends, talking to family, and from there constructing a narrative from that. After getting a base narrative down, I basically put myself in the player's shoes. From there, my group gave me feedback on what choices worked, what choices didn't, and that's how the narrative came together as a whole. Our game, being heavily centered around toxic relationships, is a difficult theme and difficult topic to discuss in a game, because if you're drawing from personal experience and experiences of friends, the feedback that you get from your group and the critique can be quite harsh if it's something you've experienced, or if it's something you feel strongly about. So how I dealt with that was I had to constantly remind myself that this isn't my game. I'm not making this game for me, it's a group effort. And that's how I kind of move forward.
Hey guys, I'm Brenton. I'm studying a Bachelor of Engineering Sciences in Digital Arts at the University of the Witwatersrand. I'm one of 2 developers who worked on the first-person shooter game CHIP, Counter-Human Independence Protocol.
My name is Eric Gardner. I am a digital artist in 3rd year. I'm majoring in game design and animation. I'm working on the CHIP team and I develop assets and art. CHIP is a first-person shooter, quick-paced survival style game set in a post-apocalyptic robotic world.
The player plays as someone who's trying to survive in this post-apocalyptic world by defeating waves of different enemies, using the knowledge they've acquired of the map's layout as well as of the different weapons that they have used throughout the game.
In order to solve the issue of constructing a large but detailed world, we took a form follows function approach in designing the components of our level. This approach involved creating chunks out of assets that are shaped with interlocking edges. These components can be fitted together to construct a large-scale world that maintains a visual aesthetic.
Hi, my name is Gift. I'm 22 years old. I'm in my final year of game design, and I was the designer of the project Escape the Spire.
Hi, I'm Matthew. I'm also 20 years old and I'm in my final year of video game design. I was the project manager for the game Escape the Spire.
Escape the Spire is a 2D dungeon crawler styled RPG. You are the last mage trapped in a prison, and it is up to you to find your way out of the prison and fight your way through various enemies inside the dungeon crawler.
The game features various spells for the player to collect and use, and the main entertainment comes from leveling up your player, gaining experience through combat, and improving the items you have.
The biggest challenge I had with this project was the concept of balance, because there were different systems in the game that had to be balanced in a way that everything made sense.
So in order to achieve the state of balance that we needed for the final release, we used various methods. We found that the most helpful methods that we used were spreadsheets to track the change of numbers, wide-scale play testing, which we used itch.io links to share the game with multiple people, which allowed us to crunch numbers, test them out, see whether they worked, and then change them if need be.
We're back. Phone's on.
Sorry.
Hey everyone, thank you. Welcome back. So that was Game Design 3 and Book. And Jess, I mean, we could all see that you were quite thrilled with what Book was selling. And what about the rest of you? Did that sound like something, the alumni professional practice course? Yeah, I mean, it's really, I think that's going to be a really great initiative. And you can see from Book and Tim's course that they already do that in third year to some degree. So it's already there a little bit. You would have done their course last year. So you would have some experience of it. So yeah, and then we saw Chip, which just looks really, really cool. And we saw Saze Town, which Jess is very excited to speak about.
I'm so excited about this game.
And what we decided is looking at Saze Town and looking at the content there is we wanted to talk about the way that we're tackling transformation, the way that we're pushing for gender inclusivity, because you know we're in a tech world, right? Digital is a tech world, which unfortunately means that too often it's a male world.
Yep.
And too often it's a white male world, right? I mean, like, so we really wanted to kind of talk about that. And Jess, I'm going to come to you and your input in Saze Town, because as a consultant was really interesting. But Fefe, maybe I can start with you as the new kid on the block. And what has your experience been coming into the department in terms of those kinds of things? And you know, did you have some anxiety around entering a digital space as a woman, or any of those kinds of things you want to share with us?
I had a lot of anxiety because I've constantly been told, you know, you're entering a male-dominated industry, and I'm just like, you know what, watch me be a female that is strong in this industry. And, you know, I was a bit anxious because I'm like, oh my gosh, there's going to be a lot of boys, and, you know, but I was like, you know, it's really inclusive. You know, the boys in our class are just like, okay, you know, everyone's a game designer, you know, girl, boy, no, it's just whatever.
Okay, so that's been positive for you then?
Yeah, positive.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's been a long struggle. You can ask Tim. In his year, we had 30 students, and I think 2 of them were women, and that was it in the first year. And the same for a kind of racial divide. It was pretty much white men. And I think we've come a long way. I mean, our stats are more than 50% female now, which is really exciting. So, you know, we've really changed in that sort of way, and you guys are, you know, wanting to be those role models for future generations, so that's pretty exciting. Do you want to just tell us briefly about why Saze Town is so exciting for you?
Okay, I need to calm down first. So, Zayana approached me, which is one of the people who helped with the game and all that stuff, and I was just like, okay, wait, why are you consulting me? That's the first thing. She's like, well, in consultation with like the tutors and Tim and stuff, she said that they said that if you're gonna be making a game about a specific thing, speak to a person who's in that thing, you know. So she approached me because she knows that I'm lesbian and I'm proudly lesbian and all that stuff. And she said that basically I'm also not a person to lie or like dot my T's and cross my I's and just be blunt about everything. So she was like, if this is a game that we shouldn't do, tell us. If we are misrepresenting the community, tell us. And I really appreciated that. I said to her, the fact that you are asking alone says so many things about what you're trying to do. And then she showed me the character art, and she just told me what the game is about, and I was like, I love this so much, because the focus of the game is not the fact that there's a lesbian or sapphic relationship represented in the game. It's actually the game, the farming game, and it's cute and cuddly. And I was like, that is exactly what it needs to be. If you are going to be representing a specific group, it's not supposed, unless it is own voice, then yes, it's the focal point. But if you are a person like on the outside looking in, you cannot give a direct personal experience, right? But you can represent it and represent it well. And they were asking me of like, should we do this and should we do that? Like their backstory is so cute, and I was like, as is, just think about it. If you wanted somebody to represent you, how would you want to be represented? You don't want to be a token character. No. You don't want to be there just for, you know, just for fluff. So think of it that way. If I'm your friend and you want to put me in the game, don't make me a fluffy character. Don't make me there for token purposes, because then you are disrespecting me. You understand? Yeah. So the fact that's why I love this game, because the focal point is not the sapphic relationship. It's a piece of it. Yeah. It's just there for representation, and I love the fact that they did that. So that's why I'm really proud of this game.
Yeah, I mean, I you know, it's such an important thing, you know, representation and how you do it, and not to do it in a tacky way where it's like, and also there is something around some people saying I'm exploring this, but like you said, there it's not the major thing, right? It's part of that, because everyone's a person, right?
Exactly.
And ultimately there's a kind of human dignity, and it doesn't matter your orientation, your background, or any of those kinds of things. You know, you're going to kind of go about your life. So come on, I'm going to shift over then to you. First of all, it's great to see you so excited. But I'm going to shift over to you, as you know. So there are a few students in our department who I feel keep the department in check and keep me in check if anything is amiss. You're one of them, Kamal, and one of them is Nadia. Shout out to Nadia if she's there. She's a very kind of strong, active voice. And we've listened to the students, and we're trying to do things that are different. But can you tell us about your experience, maybe from first to fourth year, and what it's been like to be a black woman in this environment in digital arts and maybe in the industry as well?
Yeah, before that, I do just want to again commend Saze Town, because just going on about it made me really excited to play it as well. So that's amazing. My experience, as a black woman in the space, we're definitely outnumbered. So we do tend to just naturally gravitate towards each other, which is nice because you do have each other to lean on. I haven't really experienced much like blatant I haven't been very uncomfortable in the space, because I do think that the lecturers, like you especially, do a lot to try and make the space as comfortable for everyone as possible. As I start to, venture into the industry, that I'm scared about. And I mean, Londiwe, I'll speak about her again later, but Londiwe is someone who I did look up to a lot. And just seeing her in a position of authority was very nice, and that inspired me a lot. So I'm a bit nervous about entering into the industry, just because I know how the world is, and this could be just another representation of that. But I'm excited because we need to be here, we have so much to do, so much to offer. I mean, just us sitting here, like this is so sick. So yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, it's been something that's really important to us, because we know how difficult that space is, how difficult it will be out there, right? Where we want this space here that if you can feel empowered during your undergrad years, then you can go out there and you can go like, well, what's the issue now? I'm in charge. I know I can do this. I have the confidence, and that's something that I want to give to every student that comes through our doors, whether they be someone from a background that's previously disadvantaged, someone who there's a lot of prejudice against, or even someone who might come from a wealthy position but they're very shy and they're very, there's so many different people, and our degree has that, right? And I'm glad that you've identified that there's nothing blatant in the degree, but there's still things that happen, right?
Yep.
And there's still a culture that for some of our students, we actually have to knock it out of them.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they're not bad people sometimes, but it's something that we want this environment to be somewhere where you can also learn about these kinds of things, right? And I have to say, thanks to the students coming forward and saying, hey, we want to have these conversations, we've started having what we call town halls, where we discuss some of these issues. And maybe we can ask Vuk as well in his professional practice thing, what are the different kind of things there? He can get some professionals, black women or people of color, to come in, queer people, to explain, hey, this is how I did it. Because there are those people there, they're just not as many, or we need to see more. We need to, because actually stories are better and art is better when there's a diversity. We want to hear everyone. We don't want to hear just one person, and we're tired of the kind of same stale stories and that kind of thing. But so yeah, it's really great to see. Obviously Chip, which you saw, wasn't that kind of game, but Saze Town was, and it's really great to see that, Jess, and obviously it's inspired you, and hopefully it's inspired everyone who's watching a little bit, that's the kind of stuff that you can do and really explore with. We're running a little short on our time for this particular section, so we're going to cut through to the writing and interactivity section, which is a course where we explore narrative in all its kind of forms and that kind of stuff. So thanks for sharing your stories, everyone, and for being on this panel, and I'm glad to see you smiling through the masks. I can see them. I can't see the actual mouth, but I can see the smiles. So Ray, take us away when you're ready for writing and interactivity. Whoa, wait. Why are we doing this? It's ridiculous.
Because, Kieran, we are interacting and we are writing.
But we're both here together. Why don't we just do it to the camera?
That's an excellent idea.
Hi everyone. Welcome to Writing and Interactivity. No corpsing.
Sorry.
So I'm Kieran. I'm the head of the Department for Wits Digital Arts, and this is my colleague.
Kirsten.
What do you do?
I'm not the head of the Department of Digital Arts. I am, however, the Writing and Interactivity lecturer for the third years.
So writing and interactivity is one of our 4 major streams in our department. And it's one that we love very much. It's part of our core focus. It's narrative and telling stories. So we're going to give you a brief introduction to what the course is, what we do, why we do it, and then we'll show you a little bit of the work that they did this year. So Kirsten, tell me, what do you love about the course and why do you do it?
The thing that I love most about the course is the opportunity to tell stories in interesting ways. The one thing that we really prioritize in the course is a marriage between the content and the form. It's really important that whatever story you're telling is being told in such a way that that's the best way to tell that story, and vice versa. That's my favorite thing about the course.
And when she says interesting story, what she means is interactive story. So we're all about really interacting and the audience interacting. So the reader isn't passive, they're not just sitting there reading their book. They're clicking, they're making decisions, they're doing all of these kinds of things. Exactly. And that's the interest that we're really trying to go for. We think that it serves a few purposes. One is it's a useful skill for writers. And the other thing is, you know, in this country, we don't have as many people telling stories and games and animations and all of those kinds of things. So that's also part of our kind of core goal, is to just improve African storytellers in the digital medium. So some of the things that we do Twine, which...
Rainpie? Oh, you want to talk about Twine? We can talk about Twine before we talk about other things.
So Twine is an easy interactive system. It doesn't require too much coding knowledge, but with a little bit of sophistication, you can actually do quite a lot with it.
My mum can use Twine. So if Janet can use Twine, anyone can use Twine.
Then we use Rainpie.
Yep. Rainpie is a digital software used for telling digital graphic novel based stories. It uses Python as its main coding language, but is also very easily accessible. Even I can use Rainpie.
And if Kirsten can use Rainpie, you can use Rainpie. Then obviously we do games and animation. We look at storyboarding. We look at how do you craft the story where choice becomes interesting. Kirsten's about to embark on a PhD in choice architecture, and you know, using that in interactive storytelling is a really useful thing.
Well, I've applied. We'll have to see.
She's about to start. For me, when we get to the 4th year of the course, the high levels, what I like to look at is how do you create live, digitally mediated kind of storytelling. So we have some really exciting projects that we do there. The 1 year, we had someone create a little headset where you watched yourself from the 3rd person, and then you were given all these instructions that you had to do particular things, and there was a whole story that unfolded from there. Are there any that stand out for you?
Well, that one stood out to me because I did it. But one that stood out to me is the one that our camera person did a few years ago, where the participant received a phone call and the person on the other end of the phone call told them that there's a briefcase in front of them, pick it up and run. And then the person on the phone call guided the participant around Wits, running around, and there were actors dressed in suits chasing the participant in and out of corridors until the participant eventually managed to hand the briefcase off safely.
Yeah, so there's some really cool stuff that we've done. There's been some experimental stuff which has been really interesting, such as revealing your deep dark secrets to everyone without you being aware, and then the kind of narratives that unfold from that. So yeah, we really want to push experimentation, push storytelling, push interacting with your audience and engaging with your audience. And obviously we just want our students to be better writers. They write a lot. Every week for a year and a half, they'll write a submission in their courses. And you know, just that kind of practice makes you a lot better as a writer and those kinds of things.
In many ways, the course should be called Writing and Interactivity and Writing and Interactivity.
Yes.
Yes.
That's very good.
Yes, thank
Good
you.
job.
Thank you.
Sorry, digital nomads and all. So we're just going to show you a little bit of the work that some of our students have done this year. Unfortunately, this year we couldn't do the live digitally mediated stuff, but we have some really beautiful work on Twine and RenPy that we want to show you. So, Kirsten, shall we just take a look at them?
Let's do that.
Okay. So, Kirsten, that's some of the good work that we have from our students this year. We love our course.
We do.
It drives us a little bit crazy. You can see from my lockdown here and teaching this course what it does to us. But it's well worth it. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of fun. And we hope you like the work that they produced. Okay, I'm going to reply to you now over here.
Oh, parents, so complicated, so impossible to understand sometimes, even when all they really want is for us to be good. But of course, parents, like children, don't always get what they want.
Mother, I do hate to be blunt. No one cares if you've got the plague.
Oh, I don't care if you care. I'm your mother. So sit up, pay attention, and get your beak out of that book, you suicidal dickshot.
Quark takes a breath and spins slowly in his office chair. Or he would have, but he didn't have an office chair. Because he was a duck.
Oh, for the love of just stand up. You're going to get splintered.
Fine, tell me about your stupid plague.
What's to tell? I'm going to die, Quark.
Yes, we're all going to die, Mother. What's your point?
Ugh, my point is that you only die when the humans eat your worthless behind. I have a few days, a week at best. So, come on, Quark, what do you think I want?
For natural selection to be less effective.
I want to see you do something with your life before mine gives out.
Well, if you'd listen to me and let them vaccinate you with the rest of us, we wouldn't be having this problem, now would we?
I'm telling you, vaccines cause anthropomorphism.
Fascinating. If that were true, I'd get them every day.
Oh, please. Just when I thought this human obsession couldn't get any stupider.
Stupid? Mother, show some respect for your superiors.
Superiors? Oh, really?
Really? I mean, look at this book. This is a capsule of adventure, of soul, of passion, of humans, of what it means to be good.
To be good?
To be good.
Listen, if you were good, Quark, you'd give a shit.
Mother.
You'd stop burying your head in human books and give me something to be proud of.
Now, listen.
If you were good, you'd convince me that I didn't waste my life raising you.
Mom. Damn it, Duck. Did you fall off in your sleep again?
No, I was just trying to eavesdrop.
Wow, Are you shameless or just stupid?
I...
Honestly, did I luck out on the genetic jackpot, or are we just not related?
What? There was a jackpot? When? Did I miss it?
Really?
But...
Oh, for God's sake, don't listen to your brother, Duck Duck.
But Mom...
And poke all the fun you want, Quark, but at least Duck Duck's doing something for the family name.
Well, I do plenty for the family name.
Oh, yes.
What do you mean, oh yes? Who here is as well-read? Who knows the arts? Nay, who knows the gods like I do? I am a scholar of humans and...
Oh, blah, 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 blah. Yes, my mistake. I suppose total decimation is something.
Hey.
Now, Duck Duck. Duck Duck here's been getting big and strong, haven't you, my boy?
Uh-huh.
That's right. So you'll have no trouble getting in with the, high-class broads,
I don't know. Cork just told me that if I got super shredded, I'd be able to swim.
Is that so?
Look, he needed swimming lessons, and I needed to work. So I compromised.
By making him think he was doing swimming lessons.
I did. I did feather presses for the whole day. Bro, you weren't just trying to get rid of me, were you?
Congratulations. You're smarter than you look.
Quark, apologize right now.
Mother, I don't have time for this. This book won't finish itself and...
And what? You don't have time for your family?
I don't have time for ostriches.
What?
I don't have time for ducks who bury their heads in the sand.
Actually, ostriches don't bury their heads,
I don't have time for anyone who can't open their goddamn eyes, okay?
Open our eyes.
Never mind.
No, go on. If you're causing a scene, at least finish the show.
You're so blind.
I beg
You're deluded. Spending time on you, on Duck Duck. Don't you see? It's all worthless. Zero. Nothing.
Nothing? Is that what we are to you?
No, that's not it.
Then?
I'm nothing, Mum. We're all nothing. We're nothing the moment we're not human.
Quark.
But at least I'm trying to learn their ways while I can, to gain some spark of evolution. Even I'm at least worthy of being eaten.
Quark.
You.
Yes, go on. I'm listening.
You're not even worth that anymore.
Quark.
You'll die before they have a chance to eat you.
Quark.
Leave me alone. I don't even want to look at you.
But...
You know what I would have done if I was like you? If I couldn't be eaten?
What?
I would have offed myself a long time ago.
Quark, is Mama mad?
Yeah, Doctor. She's just practicing her fucking goose step.
Oh. Okay.
Limbo Pilot Episode 1, said the sparrow to the wolf.
the... Jeez. Why do I taste sand? Where the hell am I? Ooh. Okay. So, in order, I've woken up in a strange room. I taste sand every 5 seconds, and my chest feels like it's been impaled by a pole the size of... Yep. And I haven't forgotten about you either. And now I'm talking to myself and picking fights with tremors. You know what? Never mind. Moving forward, even if it is blindly, is my only real option. Corridor is just as ruined as this one. The walls are intact, but this place looks largely abandoned. What kind of house still uses clay? Whoa. Upstairs was in pretty bad shape, but this is on another level. I was kind of hoping this place was abandoned, but...
Remember me? Well, it's time to have some fun.
With us, but now we're going to talk a little bit about your work and in particular at the MA Studios. So do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Sure, Kieran. Look, I'm a firm believer that there are times in life where you really need to explain something very explicitly and in detail to someone. I mean, tutoring has taught us that.
Certainly.
But sometimes you just got to let things speak for themselves. Ray, roll the trailer.
Eric, that did a good job explaining. But could you still tell us what this is and what we're seeing?
Sure. So, I think I think something's wrong.
I think
Potentially.
something's wrong. So our camera's off, but they can still hear us.
I mean,
So
that's fine.
let's just talk, Eric.
I've wanted an excuse to do a podcast.
There we go. Welcome to the Wits Digital Arts Exit Graduation Podcast.
I like it. I like it. Look, I think, funny you should say that. I think it's important that the trailer didn't really say that much about what the experience is going to be, because that's kind of what we're looking for the experience to be.
Fair enough.
Something that you come into with an open mind and see for the first time and imply your own experiences onto it. But long story short, the game is an exploration, or rather an artistic exploration, of what it means to be a human. And it is going to take the form of a musical puzzle platformer. And we're releasing it next year, 2021, hopefully around winter.
Cool. So just to frame things, Tim and I know what you mean by you're going to be releasing it, but will you tell everyone what the project is and how it came about and what you're actually doing?
Sure. So I'm just a little cog in a slightly larger machine. I'm working in a team of 4 people, myself, Michael Janssen van Rensburg, Rodwin Malinga, and Daniel Hartwell, and we form what we've been calling the Masters Studio for the year. And essentially we're guinea pigs, aren't we always?
Yeah, so you are a little bit of a guinea pig batch, and Tim, as one of the project leads in this, can you tell us a little bit about what we're doing with them and how we're experimenting with them?
Yeah, so I think it's quite a useful point to talk about this, considering the topics that have come up already. But effectively, we were looking into this process of the fact that, again, so many of our students would exit the department and the degree and not be quite sure about how to push forward into industry and this and that and the other. We've had some success and some stories, but for the most part, it wasn't our consistent throughput through the degree. So we were hoping that we could use the MA Studio as an opportunity to provide insight from industry professionals and a safe space within the university to allow for a studio to come together to design, to develop, to produce, and hopefully ship. My apologies. Hopefully, we believe, ship in 2 years' time.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, the program will be on a rotational basis. So this is our first group that we want to come into the studio. And actually, we've put aside some little bit of space in our new building for this MA Studio. So it'll be a program that people can apply to in the future. What we did this year, because we were trying things out, is we let them come in as a group from the undergrad program. But in future, we're going to open it out because, as we were speaking about earlier, we really want to kind of diverse group, and in some ways, you know, putting a team together might be a little bit difficult and there might be some tensions and stuff, but we really think we can get some cool games out of that, and it'll be really nice to have our studio that ships our games and you know, does all of those kinds of things. So these are hopefully will ship a game and can prove that our concept will work. Obviously, we've had difficulties this year. We had a lot of plans for particular things to happen, but everyone's been quite overwhelmed. So our students come in and form the studio, but they're also tutors within our program as part of the kind of thing. So the workload has been so intense with COVID this year that we actually haven't been able to finish it all up and do everything that we wanted to in the capacity. But how's it been working, and how, you know, what are you guys feeling in terms of your plans and stuff like that?
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's been crap. Well, there were times when it was crap, especially through first semester. A lot of the members were taking on some additional responsibilities within the department, and that made it difficult to progress, and it did put a halt on a lot of our work. Come, I don't know, midway through third block, nearing the end of third block, we decide, you know what, the best bet right now is to scrap everything that we have and start from scratch.
We've all done that many times.
We were talking about playing games earlier, weren't we?
I would like to let you know, I told my producer about that and he was very proud of you.
Oh, that's a huge up. But you know what, since we've done that, I've been feeling a lot more confident about the project. I think we're going in a great direction. I'm really excited to see what the team pulls together by next year, and I cannot commend my 3 teammates enough in this forum. They've really been doing exceptional work given the circumstances.
Yeah, and your trailer looks quite beautiful, so we're really excited.
That's all Rodman.
Well done, Rodwin. Well done, Rodwin, for the beautiful trailer. So briefly, I mean, it's good that we're talking about COVID now, because we're about to shift to our big panel for the evening, where we've got some academics from around the world to talk about it and the teaching there. So that's a good segue. But just before we get there, you know, we've been focusing a little bit on production from your side, but now we're getting into the research aspect of it, which is proving for me as a really interesting experience to see how do you, sorry, our tech person's phone wasn't on silent, which we were warned about. That's demerits for Raymond.
10 demerits for Siley as well, just so you know.
Good. Demerits all round. But yeah, so you know, and it's interesting to see that some of you are really tackling the project as part of the research, and some of you are taking it as like a starting point and then diverging out. Because, you know, as we've said with the kind of creative practice, I mean, and the professional practice, we're still a university. You're first and foremost doing research, even though you're shipping a game, right? And in some ways, it looks tasty. And in some ways, the experience of making and understanding and thinking through becomes a form of research, right? And research is such a broad kind of thing. So we've even heard like the way Kamo and Jess and Fair to some degree, but obviously she's still new and in there, are starting to learn things that are beyond just the curriculum, right? And that is still research. It's still a form of understanding and knowledge making, which I'm really keen to see where you guys progress on that front. They've sent me their methodology, so it's time to really get stuck in on those kinds of things that we're looking through. But yeah, is there anything else that you want to add, Eric?
Please follow us. We've just made all of our social media accounts live as Pantheon Interactive. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Google. All the details are in the trailer. We'll see you there. The full version of the trailer is available, or rather will be available at the end of the night. And Kieran, I'm so excited to explore all of the research topics that we have set out and started working on with you. It's going to be a great ride next year.
Yeah, it'll be a tough one, but a great one.
Yeah.
Tim, is there any last words from you on the program?
I'm so excited. Legitimately, from what I've seen from the project and what I've seen with the team work together, and having so many of the team as tutors, I'm very confident and excited for what that can be produced.
Yeah. So if you are looking to do your master's in 2022 and you're looking to get some studio experience, it's a great opportunity. It'll be a full run program there. If we get funding, we can have more than one studio. So do well so we can get funding. Thank you.
All on you.
We're about to cut through to our big panel for the evening. And the panel is hosted by Enrique Lueda, who is one of our lecturers. And she's speaking to colleagues from around the world about creative research and creative practice, but also what it's been like to teach this year and what it's been like to engage with students and to think through those kinds of things during this year when we've all been away. And you know, this is actually my first time seeing these guys since March, right? And it's quite a pleasant thing to see most of them, except for Eric. But it's, you know, so Enrique will delve into that kind of stuff, and it should be a really interesting conversation. And then we'll see you afterwards for a little wrap up. So Ray, when you're ready to transition, you can take us away.
I'm actually recreating that.
Hi, Ryan.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hey. Hi.
Right. Here we are. We are live. I still hear a couple of people talking in the background, I think. I don't know what the audio is on the on that side. There we go. All right. So if I understand everything
Enrique,
correct,
maybe
we're
we
ready
get
to
rid
go.
of the noise first because it's really disturbing. It
That is a
comes
good
from
idea.
the Wits Digital Arts.
Yes, we hear the audio from the room. So if we could cut that out, and that would help us a lot.
And we mute them.
Cool. Yes, please, Wits, can you mute your mic? Ray, please mute your mic. Thank you. I think we have it. All right, we're ready to get started. Welcome, everybody. I'm Henrike. I teach the 2nd and 4th years in game design and game studies at the Digital Arts Department at the University of the Witwatersrand, and it is my pleasure panel of this amazing game researchers and educators. And it was the proposal that we have here is Hanli, the former head of the department, who will support me in case I have a brain freeze or load shedding or any other kind of emergency. And everyone who knows Hanli knows that she's pretty much the heart and soul of this department. So thank you all for being here today for teaching, research, and creative practice as digital nomads. And I want to get started by asking all of you to introduce yourselves, your institution, what you teach and research, and tell us maybe what you're working on at the moment if there's something cool to talk about. And I would say we get started with Hannah.
Okay, good. Apologies for the 4 kids' noises in the background. I hope it's going to be fine. Hanna Virman, I'm currently at the IT University of Copenhagen at the Center of Computer Games Research. I was formerly at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University, and I've done a lot of research on serious games, including games for children with autism and games for animals, specifically orangutans. But my kind of major research from the very beginning, since 15 years, has been game fandom and gender. So that would be the research. And then currently I'm teaching game design and development here at ITU. Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being with us. It's good to see you. How about we take Jesper next? Coming from the car.
Yes, from the car. Yeah, so yeah, thanks a lot for inviting me. Yeah, I'm Jesper Juhl. I'm running a program called Visual Game and Media Design at the Royal Danish Academy of Design, Architecture and Conservation. We just changed the name. And so that's a 2-year master program, but I'm also a researcher. So my most recent book is about the rise of independent games. And I'm kind of still interested in that topic and how independent games means something different around the world and different contexts.
All right, thank you so much. Let's take Mata.
Hey, my name is Mata Haggis-Burridge. Thank you very much for inviting me to be on this panel. I'm rather impressed with the other people on this, and I hope I live up to their quality. It's very interesting to see all the different names I've seen from research over the years. I'm a video game developer. I have been doing this for around 20 years. I started off making Flash games and animations around 2000, 2007, running my own business, doing that online. Since then, I worked in the AAA industry for a few years on Burnout Paradise and Aliens vs. Predator. And I recently have been teaching for the last 10 years at Brady University of Applied Sciences, formerly known as NHTV, where I became a professor 5 years ago. So I'm now the professor of creative and entertainment games there. But I still do consultancy on video games. I do consultancy to do with game design, game writing, and I've been recently writing on Resident Evil Resistance and Dying Light 2. So kind of still AAA kind of side of things, as well as working with very small indie companies. Yeah, in my research, I often look at things like gender and identity and race and presentation, these kind of aspects in games. Recently doing a study of IMDb front covers of games from the last decade, and I've got some really interesting data from it, which I haven't published yet, but it's really fun. And I look at interface design and all kinds of things to do with games. I love this stuff.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think we're probably going to dive a little bit into your research interests later on. There was also supposed to be Amani Nassim with us, but I don't think she made the call right now. And initially also invited Sabine Hara, but she can't make it because she's sick, and I'm really sad to hear that. But hopefully,
awesome.
Yeah, Sabine's awesome. She would have been great here. But yeah, hope you get well soon. I hope she's watching us. And I was wondering if Hanli maybe also wanted to say hi to some old friends. I don't know. I don't think you need an introduction, but a chance to say a couple of words if you want.
So, yeah, to introduce myself in this context, I'm Hanli Geze. I've been with Bits Digital Arts for very many years. I developed the game design program and the BA Digital Arts degree, but primarily I'm interested in education. I'm a teacher's teacher. I'm interested in how we teach the technology arts in general, and particularly how we do it within a South African and global South context, how we think about our teaching, how we decolonize not only the subject matter of our courses, but also our ways of thinking about teaching and learning. That's me.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's really good group to have together. Like I've worked with all of you at some point, or like cross paths or done game jams or certain things. So it's really nice to see you all together in this context. And the first thing I wanted to talk about is the elephant in the room, I guess, that all of us inside this panel and everywhere else, we had to change the way we work entirely. And most of us had to shift to working from home and teaching online. And one could argue that I think that's something that we've seen in our department, that we're better prepared than most other departments because we're already so closely related to technology and the internet and doing everything online. And you could say it's maybe less been a disruption than for others. But I would like to know how this has impacted you personally and maybe your work as well, the way you teach your research. How has the pandemic changed the way your life goes? Is this somebody who wants to jump in on that? I'm waiting for a facial reaction, otherwise I'm going to pick someone like one of my students. Jesper, go ahead.
As you said, working with games is probably one of the easier fields in some sense to move online. So I felt probably two things. One was that I think a lot of people experience this, that it's much easier to switch a group that knows each other well online than it is to take a group that doesn't know each other well. So it seems like our second year students were kind of fine in at least most of the time, right? But the first year students who just came in, I think for them it's been kind of hard to go in and out of quarantine. Like we had some online, some face-to-face teaching, right? But it's been much harder for them. And so that's one thing, right? And it's just also, it's been like, it's easy to have this panel because I know most of you, right? So we don't need to kind of introduce ourselves that much. The second thing was just that I think one of the things that I think I learned from doing a lot of Zooms is this idea of the shared object, right? So it's been like if you have a party, you have a theme and so on. And also that the kind of work collaborations that work the best is something also where you have a shared object, such as like you editing a document together in real time, and that actually makes you feel close. And I realized I'm actually kind of started to use some of those techniques for when I'm teaching like offline, like face-to-face with students, such like having all of the students like write comments in a shared document at the same time. So these kind of things for us to feel kind of close to each other. Or even also like asynchronously, but at least like this idea that as long as you have something that you feel you're working on together, that actually makes a huge difference.
Absolutely, thank you.
I can add something. I feel we have like very similar thoughts with Jesper, and I also agree that we need a lot of tools and we are using lots of different technologies, and luckily we have lots of different technologies to use. I feel I'm available much more than before, that I can answer students' questions 10 p.m. pretty much any night. And I feel like that also adds to the experience, that because they are not studying at certain times, certain places, I should also be more available to help them. But we have definitely faced decrease of motivation because of even mental health issues, things like that. And for me personally, one big thing that a question I'm dealing with is like, how much new skills do I need to learn? Like I can easily adjust myself to utilize new technologies, but then when it comes to video editing or things like that, like how much of a technician I should become? And is that really my role, or should I put my efforts into something else instead?
Yeah, I can relate to that. I definitely became a pro at editing. And compression, of course, because data is also a major issue for our students. Meta, I feel like you're about to jump in.
Yeah, I mean, I think as with the experience of others, I think it's been a relatively easier shift for our academy looking at games and media than it is perhaps for some of the others. We were already using Microsoft Teams when this all began, so we were just like, yeah, we just switch easily across there. But there are things that have been more tricky. So I give classes about presentation skills, and so switching a class which was very much delivered in person, almost as a performance in itself, and done in a very collaborative way, where I had a whiteboard behind me, and as they were making their suggestions about what made a good presentation or what was good body language, we'd write them down on the whiteboard together, and collectively I always had a plan in my head of what was going to be on the whiteboard at the end, but it grew during the session. Transferring that across to a digital whiteboard, I was really quite nervous about, and I think it's actually worked surprisingly well. There are some quite good online whiteboards out there, but as kind of Hannah was saying there, I was kind of feeling like I'm learning a new skill here of how to work with a digital whiteboard to try and replicate that experience, and then really kind of using the modalities which are available within that to like drag text around and regroup things which I can't do on a physical whiteboard, and suddenly discovering kind of the new ability to kind of copy and paste images in, which you can't really do on a real whiteboard. And so there's always this thing whenever you move across into a new medium, or also when you move to a new country, that there's a lot of stuff which is very similar and very familiar, but then over time, all the little bits which aren't quite familiar kind of grate a bit more and stick out a little bit more, and you begin to become more aware of the differences. And I think that while it felt like a relatively smooth transition to begin with, I think now, what is this, 8-9 months into kind of quarantine essentially, beginning to notice kind of some of the differences in the texture of teaching online. When I was teaching about diversity and gender awareness earlier this week, a talk which I typically give in front of 200 people live, where I can really measure the reaction of an audience to particular ideas by movement and breathing patterns and all kinds of things. Doing that online is a very different experience, and particularly because there's some quite challenging things. I actually allow people to all turn their camera off, and then doing it without a camera on is a different experience. You're just talking to a void. Very strange. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a very different experience as a teacher. I agree. Yeah, I also it's the strangest thing. This was the Huntley's dog. That we that I have taught over 60 people last semester, and I don't know their faces. I've never seen them. I wouldn't recognize them in the streets.
Yeah.
Like, except for I think one person that I happened to interact with before more, but because I only took this semester these people for the first time, and it's really a bit strange. And you know it yourself when you're attending certain meetings. You just do some stuff on the side because you can totally focus into it while writing an email on the side, but you're only paying. That's for sure the same things that our students are experiencing. Yes, Bert, go ahead.
I mean, I think one thing that also I think came up for me was that, this Tolstoy quote, like all happy families are the same, all unhappy families are different, right? So that in a way that there's an infinite amount of different kinds of problems that I think students have in this context, right? So some of it might be like internet access, right? But other students just find it very, very difficult to, in a way, be motivated if they're not kind of engaged face to face, right? And also as this teacher, they're just students that it would be obvious for me that they weren't really kind of getting it, right? Because I could look at them face to face for a long time, or just talk to them briefly in the break, right? And that a lot of that becomes a lot more difficult, right? But then also the range of different responses people have, right? Some people are perfectly fine and some people are miserable, right? And it cuts across all kinds of weird lines. And I think that's difficult, right? That it's not just one problem, right? There's an infinite number of different kinds of problems that pop up.
Absolutely. Hanley, was there something you want to add?
Yeah, I think that's an important point to raise, is that there is this infinite range of problems. And when you're trying to teach digitally, you've been forced away from the community of practice in the classroom. And you now have people who are sitting in the same class who have broadband at home, someone else who's sitting in a rural area who has almost no internet access, someone else who is sitting with only the internet access provided by the university, which could be used between 12 o'clock at night and 5 o'clock in the morning. It's impossible to find a way to recreate that kind of community. As an example, I found myself in the beginning of this year trying to teach people how to web development without access to the internet. And the levels of access, and now we're talking only about material access, never mind other levels of access, simple material access that are so extremely stratified that how you hold a coherent group together and take them through a coherent curriculum becomes extremely difficult. And I think we can talk about ideas of synchronous learning and asynchronous learning and how that helps. But a lot of what gets lost is the pedagogies of care and the ability to connect. Yes, I'm more available because they can WhatsApp me, but they can also not come and sit next to me. And they also cut off from each other. So how did you guys manage that in your teaching?
Hannah?
Wait, Mata, were you going to say something?
I was volunteering Hannah because she was talking about having cameras on and off. Hannah, how have you managed to care for people in the community and bring people together?
Well, I guess what I said about being available is one of the things that kind of I try to do, that people have different needs. I have two small children by myself, and I know that in Denmark it's very, very common for master students to have children. So I have to accommodate the possibility that they are in quarantine, which happens a lot these days, and the students are not available at all times. So I guess like I'm trying to be very flexible in many different ways, not in terms of being available on different platforms, but also being available at different times. And then kind of, I guess there's a lot of emotional labor that goes into students telling about their mental health issues and what should I do and can I have a delay or like an extension of a deadline and so forth, and then managing those with the administration. So I think we just simply need to be super, super flexible when and understanding. But then also I think another thing is to be open about those and transparent when it comes to group situations, that we state them aloud, that please note that you are not on the same line. Like you are not all having the same access to internet, because sometimes for those more privileged students, it's a given that everybody should have this. And the reason why some students don't keep their cameras on is just because, I don't know, they are doing laundry in the background like I would be doing. But like there are much more serious reasons for people not to turn on their cameras. And I think just to respect and acknowledge that by ourselves as teachers, but also together with the students, so that they can understand that maybe the teammate is facing different troubles than they are themselves.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's really, I think we can see it a lot in our student body, that there's just like major differences between internet access or the home situation that people have. And it's difficult, I think, also because ours are undergrads. I think everybody else is teaching postgrad. I'm not sure. Yeah, so there, I think being a bit younger, a bit more in the high school mindset of like this fairness and everybody being treated exactly equal, which is not exactly fair for everyone, right? Yeah, and I actually had a complaint that we were giving too many extensions, but I think it's very important to address this empathy and yeah, see kind of when there is a real issue also, because usually, like Jesper said, you can see it in the students' faces if they don't really get something, and you can notice if somebody isn't showing up and might have personal issues, and you can maybe help. So often it's just, somebody needing the confirmation that they're make it. They can make it through the semester. That they're not, that I don't personally hate them because they're missing a submission or got, a little bit late on something. And just that I understand the situation, understand that they're struggling, and that I believe they can still go through this and come out the other end, a graduate and still alive, which is still alive comes first as one of these. Yeah. I also I think we touched a little bit upon that in the previous question, but what are the things you think you're going to take into the future? Like, imagine there's a time when we're all going back to some kind of a normal, where we're all teaching in person again. I don't know, some of you might already be teaching in person, but for us, it's hard to foresee how long it's going to take, at least 6 months, I would say, maybe more, also because our classes are so big. But like, is there anything that you've tried out now that you think like we're definitely gonna use that in the future and learn as part of this process of teaching online and doing remote exercises and that? Or is it like back to normal? Meta, go ahead.
Yeah, to be honest, I think I'd quite like to continue doing everything online. I see that there is a different kind of quality to it all, but I do feel that I can reach to a lot of people in different places this way. So our master's students, we've actually had more master's students this year than we've had a year before, because we've just said, wherever you are, if you can get on our course, you can get on our course. We don't require them to physically move here. They can stay, they can still be living with their parents, whereas some people might have needed to move away, maybe even for the first time. And so it's made it a little bit more accessible in that kind of way. Another thing I've personally felt from this, and listening to Hannah speaking there and kind of talking about being more available and being more flexible, I've actually found it easier to manage my time to be 9 to 5 on this job, probably for the first time since I became a lecturer. So I used to be getting messages at 3 o'clock in the morning and answering them from students. At the moment, it feels like everybody realizes that this is a stressful time, and actually it's for the good of our long-term health to try and get to habits of, I work from 9 to 5 and then I go home. My university, Brady University of Applied Sciences, the game course we have here is really focused on AAA. That's who we are training for. We have indie studios that come out of us and indie skills that come out of us, but it's really supposed to be AAA. And I think for the first time, really, since we've kind of gone into the pandemic, it's actually really been managing to do 9 to 5. And we want to encourage 9 to 5 mentality in our students. We want them to stop work at some point and be able to switch off and have a life and fall in love and, have good food and exercise, which before making games was their life. And now making games is their professional mindset. So actually, in some ways, I think the pandemic has, to some extent, helped both the students and the staff manage their time a little bit better and actually find a better dividing line between now I'm working, now I'm away. And of course, there has been a lot of mental health issues with isolation and lack of community and things like that. But I think there are also benefits from working this way that I don't want to give up too quickly once we go back in there. I'm interested to hear how other people feel like they've managed, whether they are suddenly online and available 24/7, or whether you actually feel like you've managed to manage your time better. How have other folks felt about this?
Well, let's comment on my flexibility there, because I feel like I'm also managing my time better, but I might be in a different situation with 2 very small kids, that I'm actually being flexible towards myself as well. That sometimes I need to be doing something else during those 9 to 5 hours. And then it's really, really nice for me to be able to communicate with the students later on or during weekends. So yeah, maybe I little envy here. It sounds very healthy what you are doing, and I definitely want to teach my students something like that. But then I think it's nice to acknowledge also that we have as teachers, we have very different situations as well. And I do agree that being online allows us to take into account those differences, and we can all kind of manage our time perfectly in our own ways. Maybe not perfectly, yeah.
Yeah, so somebody was bringing up this issue of kind of community of practice, I think, before. And so I think one of the things I realized here when like the community kind of wasn't working was that students, I think, weren't always like, didn't always know that they were supposed to be part of a community of practice, right? And that's one of the things that took away, is that actually just to be much more explicit about that, right? Like to explain to them that this is also, you're here, you're with your peers, and you're also supposed to be good at kind of giving feedback to other people, and you're kind of together, and just to be kind of very explicit about those kind of expectations, because I think students would probably get it like automatically in some way, but when it's not there, I think it needs to be said much more explicitly. So that's one thing. And then I think the other thing was this about like these kind of shared objects. So like now, well, our students do a lot of practical projects. So now I think I usually always start with like opening some say a Google Doc that everybody can edit anonymously, and then just putting down the ideas there. And so then you get this kind of shared pool of ideas, usually without any names, right? So they don't belong to anybody's. And that creates, I think, this kind of nice community feeling. To me, that's pretty important. And I think the interesting thing with the time, my kid's a little older than Hannah's. And to me, I definitely need, in order to not burn out, I need to be able to like unplug after dinner. I just can't, it doesn't work for me to sit up late working anymore. And so it's just interesting, like so many different kind of, I think that just speaks to other people's point, right? You just need to acknowledge that a lot of people have just very, very different situations, and you have to kind of ask, right? You can't guess what people's constraints are. They might be incredibly different. And I think that's one of the things I learned here, right?
No, that's interesting. And also kind of what you're saying there, and also what Hanley was saying as well, is nice, where one of the kind of the possibilities of working online like this is anonymity, that you can actually have anonymous contributions in a way that you can't do in a classroom. So that's, again, kind of one of those things that it's kind of an unexpected benefit. I think one of the things that Hanley was mentioning is there is such a difference in the accessibility, like just having access to stable internet is a huge difference when everybody comes to the same room. You know, you're all strangers at the start of a bachelor course or strangers at the start of a master's course, and you all look equal in a way. You walk in, you're all newbies. Whereas I think perhaps the way that being online has actually pushed education to people's homes and people's houses has made the differences between privilege, frankly, more visible in a way that hopefully might, boost empathy between different people. They might realize that, hey, some people have come from a background where making games seems like a really rational choice, and other people have fought for their entire life to get to the skills and to get to the point where this is a possibility for them. Of course, it could completely backfire, and some people might kind of go, oh, they're definitely not like me, look where they've come from. So we have to be very careful in how we moderate these kind of communities, I think. And that's something perhaps we didn't have before. Enrica, you said you've unmuted.
It's all good. I just want to check with Jesper, because you earlier said you might have to leave around this time, or can you stay a little bit longer?
I'll just be walking with my phone, if it's okay.
Oh yeah, okay, great. No, that's we can have you. It's good. Now we get to see a little bit of dark Copenhagen.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, one of the things Jesper mentioned earlier was the idea of us all being in a community, which is quite crucial to game development. I think you hardly ever develop games in a vacuum and by yourself. It's all about meeting other people who do this, and especially because it's such a hard thing to do. I think it's important to get that motivation, get other people's eyes on it, get inspired by other people trying out new things. And one of the major differences that I've experienced between the two scenes that I've become aware of, that is the Scandinavian scene and the one here in South Africa, is that in Scandinavia, it's a lot more social by nature. I feel like it has a lot to do with the culture of the people, of like roping people in. You hardly notice if you're socially awkward, because you just, get integrated into the community. People are just always making sure you come along to the events. And it seems in South Africa, it's a little harder to get people together. Like there's a lot of formed circles that people are already in, and they stay in those circles. So like they go in those circles to these events, but they don't necessarily try to invite everybody else. And I think it's like, yeah, reaching out seems a bit like a major effort. And so now with the pandemic, you could kind of argue that now we're all kind of level playing fields, no matter where you are, you're equally isolated to a point. We have to all come together socially online, and that means we could connect all over the world, technically. So yeah, so at least it would take similar efforts, South African or like Johannesburg students and Copenhagen students to get together in some kind of event, similar difficulty as it would be if they were in the same city together, depending on the lockdown situations. So to some degree, I'm wondering, like, will this help us in the future forming better communities? Can we somehow, by being online, make it easier, like overcome those distances? And does it mean we're better connected now, or are we rather equally isolated? I don't know if that's a good question, but yeah, somebody has.
I have personally really liked the fact that I have been able to participate in conferences where I wouldn't have been able to participate otherwise, either because of the cost of travel or the travel time, or just something is so distantly interesting that I wouldn't thought it would be worth going. So I guess there are these communities where I thought I'm not maybe part of, or I didn't have access to previously, that I have been able to be part of. And I think students are experiencing the same, like something what you're doing today. Maybe there are people outside of your region participating in, and kind of we get these fragmented communities, I guess. Like we are part of loads of different kinds of communities, maybe not so immersed in them as previously, but I wouldn't say we are isolated. At least personally, I feel like we have so many opportunities to join in different kinds of groups that it's quite nice.
That's what I was hoping to hear. Maybe go ahead.
I do agree. I mean, obviously I'm talking to South Africa from the Netherlands this week. Next week I'm going to be talking to Poland. So, it's very nice to be able to kind of jump all over the world in a way and have these kind of things in. I think we've become much more aware of time zones than we ever were before. But I think we also saw even a couple of years ago, I hope all of us were kind of aware of the kind of growing distributed development idea. And obviously the discussion about kind of workplace health, I think, has become much stronger in the last few years, and thinking about work-life balance and thinking about, the games industry. If you're working in the big studios, often you are moving house every time you move job. And the sustainability of this as the workforce gets older, you either drop out the games industry or you've just settled for a company. And I think we've got better at kind of thinking about, maybe to keep people in, we need to let people be more flexible. So hopefully, maybe the pandemic has kind of pushed more people to do the online work and make this function as part of our lives. And I hope it does. I really hope it does, to not all have us living in these ridiculously expensive city hubs, where the salary pays for 70% of your rent and you're kind of done. I think that would be nice to hope there's some healthier work life that comes out of this for distributed development.
Jesper, go ahead.
But I think also, so the problems will also become a bit similar to what we discussed before, right? I see companies talk about like the onboarding process is the hardest thing, right? And so I also feel, well, pretty privileged that in a way of having been in the field for a while, right? As Hannah talks about, I also go to lots of really interesting seminars that I wouldn't normally go to, right? But all of this is just a lot easier when you already know people. It's also interesting. I think it's probably going to be hard for people to say break into the industry or break into an academic world, like without being able to meet physically, or perhaps who knows? Perhaps people will become really good at that. But it does seem to be a barrier right now, right?
Right. Does anyone else want to chime in on this? Otherwise, I will move on. We have about 10 minutes left, and I was going to ask you about your research topics, because as you mentioned in your introductions, there's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about, but I'm worried that the 10 minutes are not going to be enough. So I have another question that I think, and then we can maybe get a couple of other ones from the YouTube channel. because I think it segues better into what Jesper just said. I think one thing that our students are curious about now with this situation is that in terms of job security and the future of the games industry, they're kind of wondering when they graduate, will there be any jobs left? How has the games industry been hit by this? Is it going to be better now that we're hiring people more remote, which in the games industry, it's been quite common already that people have been working remotely. And a lot of them, I think, are thinking of moving overseas where, the grass is always greener, because I think the major thing is better game development scenes, better connection to, especially in Scandinavia. I think it's very close to everything, you're close to very cool people. But yeah, do you think the pandemic has affected the graduates' job security?
I guess for some places we know for a fact that, there was a very great GDC, at least the free version of it, the report about the state of the industry during this year, that was it 8% of the people interviewed had lost their jobs, but it was very clear that there were companies that had increased revenue or increased business, and some had decreased. So there are kind of big differences, and I can also imagine that there are new kinds of businesses emerging because of this. I would think that it's a great benefit for our students to go through these ways of working and learn the methods and the technologies while they are at school, because that's what they're going to be using when unfortunately when they reach the work life, because the GDC report also indicated that many companies, or most of them, are changing their ways of working because of what happened in the past months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think we can see that shift in the industry happening. As kind of Hannah was saying, there are some companies which have done very well out of this. They've really profited from people having more time at home and things like that. But if you're a smaller company, if you haven't released your first title yet, I think that's really become quite a problem, because you suddenly had to shift offline, to online development. You weren't working in a team like you were so used to, and you didn't have that kind of camaraderie that smallest teams kind of really live off of. So I think there have been probably more challenges for kind of the indie community than I think they have for the AAA side of things. So I think, as Hannah's saying there, yeah, there's definitely some people who've definitely won out of this, but I'm not sure everybody has. In terms of the graduate scene, actually, we've not seen a significant problem. The main thing we've really seen here was internships were a little bit harder, as Jesper's been pointing out. That onboarding process in studios has been much more challenging. And so they've been kind of going, yeah, let's not do interns for the moment. It's going to be too much effort to try and get them on board with the collective culture. Whereas previously we had found it quite easy to get internships for our students. So I think finding internships has been a big struggle. But overall, actually, the market's retained quite a lot of its stability, I think. It's been quite good.
Thank you. Agree. So Jesper raising a finger.
But I guess just to kind of echo what everybody else said, it's one of those things. There's just a huge difference between companies, but then there's this kind of weird mixture of kind of optimism, because there's a lot of attention to the field and at least some investment, and then kind of uncertainty about how these processes are supposed to work. So we had some students who were nominated for a game at GDC. They had a nomination with one of their games at GDC, and I was just remembering the first times I went to GDC and meeting all those people, and then GDC was canceled, right? And it just felt so sorry for them, kind of missing that missing that moment of feeling part of that kind of global community, right?
Yeah, that was a sad moment. I think a lot of people were still like, come on, we can still do GDC. We just wear masks. It's going to be fine. Days we're still thinking this, hopeful that this is going to blow over in a couple of months. Would anyone else like to comment on the question of the job security? Good. All right. So there's a question we got from the audience. Where Tim asked, what would one piece of advice would be that you could give to our graduating students? It's a tricky one. Good one. Go ahead, Jesper.
I mean, so go to events, basically like the online events. There are a lot of kind of conferences now. Just I think just it's a bit like the old timey advice, but just go to a lot of conferences online, and in this case, just hang out in the Discord, note people's names, and if you like a speaker's presentation, just be honest and say that, right? Just maximize the amount of connections you make. In a way, it's the advice we always give, right? But it just still applies today.
Yeah, absolutely. Be social, non-social. Hannah.
My advice would be similar to what I would say to a student in any situation. Like, get to know your peers now that you are there. The university peers, your classes are going to be your very valuable resources and one of the biggest communities in their life later. And like the older you become, the more you realize that that's actually really important community. So even though it's hard to to get to know them, make an effort, because that's really it pays off.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree. Networking is just the most important thing. Getting to know so many people. One of the jobs I got, I'd actually sent a CV in loads of times, and the company had never said anything at all. And then a person I'd worked with before, who knew somebody at that company, went, "Why haven't you talked back to Matta yet? He's looking for a thing." And they were like, "Who's Matta?" "Oh, Matta." "Well, we'll go bring him," and got offered a job that afternoon. That kind of experience is actually surprisingly common, kind of worryingly common, because it does mean that it is a bit of a club, and breaking into that club is quite tricky. So networking, getting to know people as much as possible. It probably is a bit harder online. Let's be honest about this. That is a bigger challenge. But yeah, getting to know your classmates is incredibly important. Yes, Beth, you wanted to pop in there?
Yeah, so actually one thing also that it's a bit like this thing, like what do students realize, say, like that the community is important and so on. So we ended up doing a thing where for most semesters, I think they have to update their online portfolio as part of the hand-in, right? Just to make them feel part of, like, as being kind of out there in the world just from like the first semester, and continuously thinking about their presence in the world. And that's been pretty helpful.
Thank you. Hanli, is there any closing words that you would like to add to this? The time is about to run out, so this will be our last remarks. Any final advice for our students?
Not for me, no. I think it's been really wonderful to listen to everybody speak. And it's really interesting to hear how things have been approached and what you consider the benefits and the disadvantages from such a vastly different context. So thank you very much.
Yes, definitely echoing. Thank you all so much for your time. I'm sure we could keep talking for a long time. So thanks so much for making the time to join this conversation. Thanks everyone at home for watching, for your comments and your support. It has been a pleasure and an honor, and I can't wait to see you all again in person sometime soon. So take care, and we're gonna revert back to Command Center.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the conversation. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone. That was a really fascinating, engaging, and interesting panel. And you know, there's a lot to think about in terms of teaching and stuff. The one thing I just want to kind of touch on briefly is there was a question around diversity on the panel. And I mean, looking at the panel, it was very white, quite pale, and very white. But you know, I think it is one of those things that Tim was mentioning, that it takes us time to build our networks across the world, right? Because game design exists in Europe, which is why we had European speakers. And I hope that one day there'll be a panel talking about how to teach game design, and it'll have Fefe and Kamo and maybe Eric. You know, but I think that that's something that we need to work towards. And in some ways, the lack of diversity is almost a challenge to say, guys, let's get our shit together. Let's put people out there who can teach, who can inspire, who can be role models. You know, I think that's really important. So we've come to the end of our evening just about. We're just in the kind of conclusion. Eric unfortunately has to leave us a little bit early. So Eric, if you'll just make your departure now.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Eric. As you all know, we've been living in a life of COVID and of Zoom calls and of the like, where we kind of live under these rough conditions and stuff. But I want to thank all of our students for sticking with us, for being patient, for such an incredible hard work, such an incredible work ethic, and such commitment to what we do and to the work that you've had for you this year. I know it's been incredibly hard, so I want to thank you.
Thank you.
As students, you're welcome. And also as my lovely hosts. You guys have been so wonderful and so great. And I want to thank our staff, obviously. We have such an excellent team. We're building the team, we're changing the team all the time, but so far we've been really, really great and blessed to have such wonderful people in our company. Thank you to Raymond for his excellent work that he did today. One or two hitches, but otherwise it was really, really great. This is our first time broadcasting. Yeah. None of us have done it before, but thank you all very much. And we hope you enjoyed the students' work. But this isn't the end. All of the videos will be up of all the animations, of all the different kinds of work. On Itch, you can check out cool interactive websites, interactive art, games, so please spend some time looking through there. The work is incredible. It's grown so much, and the students have just, it's amazing how much they've achieved, especially in the year, and considering the year. So I just wanted to thank everyone. Fefe, do you have any closing things, remarks, words of wisdom?
I am excited for the upcoming years. Like, looking at the third years and fourth years work, it's just exciting me more. So thank you for that, third years and fourth years. Well done as well.
You're welcome.
There you go, we're inspiring each other. Kamo, do you have any last words before we do our last segment?
Thanks for having me, first and foremost. And yeah, shout out to all the other fourth years. You're talented, like a really, really talented bunch of people. The third years as well, the stuff that I saw. But yeah, just well done to everyone. Like, there's a lot of talented people here, and everyone should be proud of themselves.
Yeah, they really should. And if Eric was still here, I'm sure he'd have interesting closing words as well, but he's not, so he can't. The one thing I just wanted to say is, you know, so Jess had to leave us because sometimes in this country, if you live somewhere and you take public transport, you have to get out before 7. You know, and it's such a hard reality for so many of our students, and it's such a struggle because, you know, you want to stay late and you want to be in the lab and you want to work, and if you're not in res or you don't have transport, that can be quite difficult. And that's one of the many obstacles that we have to overcome in the years. But I'm confident with such amazing students and with the committed staff body that it's something that we can do in the years to come. So let's hope. Thank you all for joining us. What we're going to do now as a kind of closing is, earlier in this year, in January, we lost one of our colleagues, unfortunately, Londiwe Lange. She was an amazing woman, and she was a huge part of our department, part of the transformation of our department, and a really, really strong voice and inspiration for a lot of our students. So we're going to do a kind of memorial in memoriam to kind of close off, but I wanted, you know, we've done all this fun stuff and we've looked at all this cool stuff. So I don't want it to just be a moment of sadness. I think this is a moment of celebration. She was such an important and such a strong woman. So that's how we'll end off. Fefe and I are going to leave. Kamo has a few words about Londiwe before we head off. And I just want to say thank you all for watching. Thank you all for the work that you've done. And now that we have a YouTube channel, you can see our cool stuff all the time. So thank you, Kamal. Thank you, Fefe. Thank you, Eric, in the back. And thank you to all the staff who made this happen, and Enrica, and all the students, and everyone.
So I'm going to read a bit of what I have to say about Londiwe. As Kieran said, we're nearing the end of this, and we can't really end something like this without acknowledging someone like really brilliant who should have been here with us. I and many other students were introduced to Londiwe in third year for interactive media. And for me, what she kind of was a very exciting sight as a Black woman in a position of authority in this space. And it's not very common, so that meant a lot to me. It does a lot for someone when you see an image of familiarity, and I think for me and a lot of other people, Londiwe was that, in addition to her just being a brilliant person. I hope that other students like me were able to learn a lot from her. I think her passion about the internet and Africa and feminism was really inspiring to me, and I hope that other people started to, realize the potential that we have and the importance that lies in us creating work for the continent. It's unfortunate that she was taken away much sooner than she should have been, but for me, what that's done is just push me to work a lot harder and realize how necessary it is for more faces and voices like Londiwe as lecturers and leaders in this space. She was a feminist, she was kind, she was intelligent, she was patient, and all of these attributes are really important for students to come across in their undergrad years. So it was an honor to have been taught by her, even though it was very brief. One thing about me that I can say is that I always try very hard to let people know how much they inspire me and how amazing they were, whether it's a writer on Twitter with 200 followers or an animator on Instagram with 200,000 followers. Like, I really tried because it's very important to let people know that they inspire you. But with Londiwe, I was way too shy to ever tell her that. So I'm really happy that Kieran has given me this opportunity to celebrate her in some way and let people know what she meant to me and other people. Thank you.
Give me My father, my parents took me to Model C schools, but my dad had this thing about, in his household, no one speaks English. So he used to really flip out when you hear us like twanging in the background, like, he'd really, like, there's this one memory where he shut the whole apple core in the kitchen. So he's sitting in the dining room, and he just, next thing we see an apple core flying into the kitchen. It's like, speak Zulu! And we're like, sheesh, like we were annoyed by that. But from there, I started realizing how violent this thing of losing ourselves in our education, losing our identities through our education, that's where it begins, is that it's a gradual thing. It's not supposed to feel, you don't feel it as it happens. When you're young, you're not, so it starts there. So that's where, those are one of the memories that I've always kind of, initially it was like, yo, my dad is just ridiculous. Over the years, it's shifted to, damn, like, he helped me. There are aspects of my culture that I've come into contact with that has opened an understanding that is far greater than what well, not far greater, but that has kind of turned upside down the definitions that I grew up being taught about being Zulu. And this is where I feel that this notion of changing the narrative is kind of essential, because who's been telling us who we are? Who's been telling us who we are? How do we accept only speaking about each other's cultural groups and stereotypes? You mean to tell me that you don't have Zulu experience with Zulu people that are positive? Why hone in on only the negative associations and make that an identity?